All right. Welcome to the broadcast. This is, excuse me, this is the first ever edition of the Destroying Pro-Aborts Show. And there's going to be a lot more shows where this came from, but yes, it is my mission to fight pro-abort logic and to defend the life of the unborn. And on this show, we destroy pro-aborts. That's what we do. And it's going to offend a lot of people, but you know what? I don't care. A lot of people are going to be offended by me calling them pro-aborts if they identify themselves as pro-choice. But again, I don't care because I believe that abortion is one of the most sick, if not the most sick evil on the earth today. And I don't understand how anybody can support it whatsoever. And if you know that this thing that you call abortion is wrong inherently, then how can you claim that you're truly pro-choice? I believe and I submit that every single pro-abort knows inherently that abortion is wrong, and they try to pretend and act otherwise. But on this show, it's not about the BS and about the beating around the bush. We cut to the core in this show. It's real talk and real discussions. We get to the core point of these matters. And that's how the show is going to be. Again, my mission in life is to, I believe my mission from God is to fight against pro abortion logic, to do my part in being a strong voice in the pro life community. And I will not relent in that mission. And I don't give a crap how many pro aborts get, offended by it. We destroy pro abort logic on here, and I call it out as such. I don't care who doesn't like it, who gets offended by it. That's what it is on this show. If you don't like it, don't watch the show. If you don't like it, don't come on the show. It's pretty much that simple. As I said, I think abortion is one of the most evil, if not the most evil things on the planet. And sadly, in many cases, one of the most evil things on the planet is legal. It is absolutely disgusting that we are killing our own children for our own personal conveniences. And I'm going to keep beating that drum that we are killing our own children and there's no excuse for it. And so many different sorts of ways pro aborts try to deal with this argument, a number of different ways from saying, a woman might be depressed or she might not be able to raise a child or so she may be raped or she may have her life on the line. We deal with all those arguments on this show. We deal with all those claims. And if you want to really know how to deal with pro abort logic, then this is the show for you. This is a voice for you pro lifers and for you abolitionists to equip you with the tools that you need to deal with pro abort logic and to deal with it succinctly and articulately and logically. We bring you facts, evidence, arguments, logic. We bring that all to you. Anything you need to destroy pro abort logic, we got it right here on this show. So yep, that's what the show is about. It's about destroying pro abort logic, and I don't. And I'm again, it's like I don't care who gets offended by that. That's just. I mean, we got to get to a point where we got to call stuff what it is, not what we feel comfortable with calling it. Point stuff out for what it is. I mean, oh, abortion's not killing. No, call it what it is. Stop beating around the bush. Call it what it is. And way too often we get into such a comfort of trying to appease everybody else, trying to soften things up, trying to avoid offending others. We don't do that on this show. If you want to, try to coddle around the issue, try to not deal with the relevant facts, to try to appease other people, then you're watching the wrong show. And if you want to come on the wrong show expecting that to happen, then you got a rude awakening ahead of you, guaranteed. So yeah, this is what we do on this show. We address pro-abort logic. We beat it into the ground, and I have a mission to do my part in adapting change in the culture, which justifies the sick evil that is abortion. So yes, I am so happy to be doing this show and to be a voice for the pro-life community, because there are so many out there who are not quite equipped on how to deal with pro-abortion arguments, and you know all these alleged facts, like like for example, the 3% um, lie that pro-aborts like to use for Planned Parenthood, these thousands of alleged uh, abortions, or these killings that happened in illegal abortions before Roe v. Wade was legalized. We have all sorts of information and facts on this show, and to them using the argument to using the issue about the lady and the lady who lived in Ireland. Well, did she live in Ireland? Yeah, I think she lived in Ireland. Her name was Savita, and they will use that case to say, "Oh, this is why we need abortion." Well, they don't have their facts straight on that either. And on this show, all that gets exposed. Inaccurate facts, BS logic, all that gets exposed on this show. We tell the truth on this show. We don't coddle to sensitivities and feelings on this show. We don't do that here, because if you want to implement or really fight for legit change and enact a real change in the culture against fighting against evils like abortion, you got to call it for what it is. You got to not tiptoe around the issues and go straight to the facts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to post the link to this hangout in a number of different places, and see if we can get anyone into this room and talk about this issue. So give me just one moment. All right, thank you for your patience. I've posted the link in a few places, and let's see anyone come up in here. Let's see. All right, I just got a wonderful comment from a Christian brother. I really appreciate it. Um, I don't want to put his name out like that, but if he makes his presence in the text chat, then if he wants to be shouted out, then I'd be more than happy to shout him out at that time. But I appreciate his kind words, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to post a link in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you can see the link in the chat so you can join the room. But yes, this show is about destroying pro-abort logic, and it's about just pounding it into the ground and refuting inaccurate facts and destroying misinformation, disinformation, all that. Whatever you need to fight against pro-abort nonsense, you get it all here. But I'm very, very passionate about this issue. I mean, and for very, very good reason. I mean, I recognize what's happening. A child in the womb who did absolutely nothing to be in the position that they're in is being killed. And how do people get away from this? They try to change the nature or argue against the nature of it. They try to say there is no child there. They try to say it isn't really a life. They try to say it's really not a human, not a person. Or let's say they acknowledge all the above, and then they'll say, well, even if all that is true, it still doesn't have a right to be there. That doesn't mean have a right to a woman's body. All these pseudo just garbage arguments, they all fall in this room. And I'll show you exactly why with every last single one of them. I mean, are you seriously gonna fight for the right to kill an innocent child that absolutely did not ask to be in that position? Are you seriously gonna do that? That is just sad. That anybody will fight, want to fight for the right to kill off their own offspring. They didn't ask to be there. I don't care what the circumstances are. They didn't ask to be there, and they'll try a number of different ways to try to get you off your square. They'll try to appeal to the life-threatening case. They'll try to appeal to the rape case. You gotta really pay attention to what these people are doing. The overwhelming majority of life threatening cases don't arise typically until late term, where it would be possible not only to save the baby but the mother as well. And we have so many facts and just so much stuff to fight against disinformation on here that most pro-aborts aren't even going to come in here. I've actually challenged, and I'm not even making this number up, I've actually challenged over 120 pro-aborts on Facebook to have a one-on-one live debate with me, and over 120 of them have refused, and I'm not even kidding. I'm one of the most hated pro-lifers on Facebook, and I've actually had two whole pages built to attacking me and to try to discredit me. And you'd be surprised just how much pro-aborts talk about me on Facebook. If you go to it, if you involve yourself with certain pro-life and pro-abortion groups on Facebook, it won't take you very long to where you'll find somebody and be like, "Oh, that's that anti-choicer Antonio Fletcher. That's that crazy idiot there." So, and for years, I was on Facebook engaging in text chat. Right, I was in text chat, and I got tired of the whole text chat exchanges. So I found the G Plus community, and I thought this was a very, very good time to start bringing, voice to voice interactions. I think this is a great opportunity to be, to bring something else to the table instead of just endless text chat exchanges on social media forums like Facebook. It's time for people to, have conversations like from one voice to another live. Let's see if people got the guts to defend what they believe live, and they don't have just this little you know script that they can appeal to, behind the cloak of a text chat. So that's the reason why I've started challenging pro-aborts on Facebook to voice chat debate, and over 120 of them to date have refused. And it's really, really sad. And most of them are just, I mean, if not all of them, they just scared. That's just the bottom line, point blank. They just scared. They don't want to come up here and defend their nonsense. You can't defend it. You cannot defend the indefensible. You can't do it. I don't care how logical you think you are, or how much you say you care about women, and how you really think it's actually doing the child a favor by killing the child and all this other BS nonsense. You cannot defend what is indefensible. And I give arguments as to exactly why abortion is indefensible. And I know I'm going to tick off a lot of people. I'm going to offend a lot of people, but I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather see an innocent child saved from the slaughter of abortion than the feelings of a pro-abort who gets their pennies in a wad and their draws in a wad. I don't really care about their personal feelings. I care about being a strong voice against their murderous position, because that's what it is. It's a murder. You got to call it what it is. We got to be honest. Real change isn't going to be made till people start being honest and upfront about what things really are. And that's what we do on this show. And let's see. And I posted this in a number of different places. Let's see if anybody's going to come in here real soon. Okay. Let me, I got a few more things I got to take care of real quick. I'll be right back shortly.
Yo!
Hello.
What's up, Jackson?
Morning.
And of course, Gary too. What's up, man?
Yeah, that's all yours, sir. Alright.
All right. Yeah, this is the Destroying Pro-Aborts Show.
This
I
is
know
gonna,
you. What's up?
I said this is gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, I know you're pro-life, Jackson, but you're not exactly pro-life, Gary.
I'm pro-choice, uh, but I have pro-life leanings.
There's no such thing. Why? Because it's a contradiction. That's just like saying you're pro-choice, but you have not like pro-choice to not allowing rape, but you have non-rape leanings.
Actually, it makes perfect sense in that I myself, in my own personal politics, I'm pro-life, but I would rather have pro-choice where it's done by medical professionals, where people are given plenty of information beforehand, and it's done that way rather than any other way where that isn't the case. I'd rather it was done by trained medical professionals who can take care of this and give women the good and the bad of what's going to happen. I think that's to say you can't compare it to rape because abortion is a woman's choice. Rape isn't. No woman chooses to be raped, or no man does either.
Well, you know what? The unborn child doesn't choose to be killed either, but I don't see you making that argument there. And what if they say, well, it's the person's choice to rape somebody? So what? If you want to sit up there and ignore the unborn, then you can make that argument. That's a woman's choice
But
to.
the abortion does
Wait,
have a consequence.
stop! I
Right.
wasn't done. If you can make the argument to kill the unborn and just ignore it and say it's a woman's choice to kill it and act like it's not there and just pretend that it doesn't matter, then a person can do the same thing for rape and say that they're not personally pro-rape, but they don't really think anybody shouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't personally rape somebody, but if someone's going to do that, then that's their business. Just ignore the person that's getting raped and just act like you're pro-choice and that same type of illogical thinking. Go ahead.
No, I just waited. I was just gonna say I see it as that medical professionals doing their job, and the thing is that the that lots of women do not use abortion as a means of birth control. It only happens in unique circumstances, and if it were to happen the way that most people think it does, then again, at least they're informed about it, of the risks they're putting their body through by doing it. Because again, it will cause irreparable harm if they're doing it just to as a sexual what's the word as birth control.
You say the procedure is done by medical professionals. Well, you know what? Medical professionals killed Jews in the Holocaust, so what's your point?
Uh, that's Godwin law, and that's like an immediate loss of argument because you can't compare the two.
Why not?
Why not? Because again, because it's Godwin's law.
What?
It's Godwin's law.
What are you talking about?
Godwin's law is that given enough time, any argument will bring up the Nazis in order to gain victory.
So you're looking at a description of a law to say that the principle is not the same. That's stupid, dude.
No. I'm just saying Godwin's law is a logical fallacy. About like if you what you were saying was correct, you wouldn't need to bring up the Nazis. The thing is that
All you did was
what is
point to a description of a law. You didn't say how it wasn't connected. I say that the killing of the unborn is the same as the killing of the Jews in the Holocaust. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm pointing out that that's Godwin's law, and that's a logical fallacy.
And explain what the difference is. Go ahead.
Right. You want me to explain the difference? Okay. Here's the difference. I can't believe I do this. But okay, I'll try and do it for. Okay, the Jews were killed because the Nazis were anti-Semitic, racist idiots who thought that the Aryan race, or whatever you call it, was the most viable race for the German people to be. Whereas nobody is saying that the people who, the women doing abortions, are not doing that. They're doing it because they feel either unable or incapable of being mothers, or, and this tends to be the majority of cases, they've been raped or incestually attacked in some way, that they are now pregnant with a baby and they don't want to have a baby in that specific circumstance.
Do you realize that similar logic has been applied to women killing born children, and at times women have gotten off without any jail time for killing born children? Do you realize that?
Women have got away with killing children that actually have been born into the world.
Yes.
When has that actually happened?
Several different occasions. In fact, all you got to do is Google women who've gotten off of killing born children. You'll come up with all sorts of results.
Okay, but again, like that doesn't connote to what's this about. The
Oh yes, it does. Yes, it does, and I'll explain why. Because you're saying women have certain feelings about no, wait. Women have certain feelings about killing their born children. They were going through like certain emotional distresses and things like this, and they killed their born children, and people had sympathy on them, and they got off with no punishment. And you trying to apply that same type of sympathetic logic to the unborn, to a woman killing the unborn.
No, I'm trying to apply the logic that we've come to regarding women's rights. And women's rights to control their own body. And the thing is that there is argument, and this is probably one of the strongest arguments you could do of when does the fetus, or whatever you want to call it, the zygote, whatever, when does that develop rights? And the thing is that there's been debate about this for years, and we're getting no closer to an answer. Now, I would say it's 22 to 23 weeks, but there are people who would say that's a bit too soon for it to have what we would call human rights. Now, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you something, okay? You have to answer this, don't avoid this. Can you justify the Paris attacks?
Can I justify the Paris attacks? No.
Can you justify Columbine or Sandy Hook?
No.
And why can you justify killing all those innocent lives? And in 2014, according to www.abort73.com, over 974,000 abortions took place in 2014. How can you justify that, and yet you can't justify Columbine or Paris or Sandy Hook?
Okay, there's a difference. The difference is that as zygote doesn't have consciousness, the people in Paris and in Columbine had consciousness, were fully grown teenagers in Columbine's case, and were fully grown adults in Paris's case. So therefore, they had humandom, they had personhood.
Whereas shot somebody with a drug and made them unconscious, killing them would be all right.
No. Because
you said consciousness. You said they didn't have consciousness.
No. Consciousness has nothing to do with being conscious.
Wait, hold on. If somebody's in a state of unconsciousness, by your logic, it's okay to kill them. Unconscious or non-conscious or whatever.
No, consciousness has nothing to do with your the state of consciousness you're in. Consciousness is when when you're self-aware, when you have emotions, when you can feel pain. That is
Okay, but
what I mean
somebody,
by
but somebody in the state of unconsciousness may not be able to feel pain, like somebody in a coma, for example.
right. But there's people who think that people in comas should have the right to self-terminate.
Exactly. So,
I
so
get.
wait. So your logic applies to killing unborn people too in the coma. Let's be consistent. Be consistent, sir.
There is no comparison because what is a fully grown person?
How's it no comparison? You just said that some people apply that logic to killing people in a coma.
I said consciousness, and consciousness has nothing to do with the state of consciousness.
But you just said some people. Wait, let's not get away from this. You said some people apply that to killing
No, some people
humans in the coma.
some people want to apply it, but it doesn't apply for numerous reasons.
All right, then why didn't you just say that the first time? You just brought up some people apply it as if you agreed with it, but you didn't say you didn't agree with it till just now.
No, I don't agree with it. But again,
Why not? What's the problem?
The problem is personhood. That person has personhood, and therefore may not be in the full state of self-awareness to know what they're agreeing to. So they may agree to something that they wouldn't do in their right mind because they're in so much pain, or maybe they are agreeing to something. So again, there is issues of right-mindedness, but again, this is the problem. Is that it's about choice. Now the thing is that the woman has a choice of what she should do with her body. She should not have the choice taken away from her because what? Because people feel that a zygote is a person. I just don't see that.
Hold on. So a consciousness equates to personhood, correct? Is that your position?
That's the scientific position, yes.
All right. A bum, has consciousness, right? But a bum doesn't have a right to, come into my house.
No, he doesn't have the right to come into your house, but he's still considered a person. He still has personhood. That's not what personhood is. Personhood has nothing to do with the things you own or the things you are. Personhood has to do with your identity of self and your self-worth and stuff like that. The right that you have the right not to be treated a certain way. You go by what we would consider the Declaration of Human Rights. That is what I mean by personhood. That if you're covered by that, then you are covered by personhood.
You're missing the point, sir. You're missing the point because if we were to suppose, for the sake of argument, that the unborn had a consciousness, by your logic, the unborn would have personhood. But as I just said, personhood doesn't mean you have a right to somebody's property. Now, pro-aborts define, a woman's body as her property. So, personhood doesn't mean that you have the right to somebody else's property. So, appealing to the personhood argument doesn't mean that they would have a right to someone else's property by pro-abort logic, right? So, even if the unborn did have personhood, the pro-abort could still argue the same position, correct?
Again, I don't want to use the word pro-aborts, but again, pro-choices are about people having the decision to do what they want with their own bodies. So, like for example, if people want to have tattoos, they should be able to get them if they want.
Do you agree with the logic that personhood, if the unborn has personhood, that does not mean that the unborn has a right to a woman's body? Do you agree with that line of logic?
I agree that a woman has the right to do what she wants with her own body, yes.
Even if the unborn is a person, she still has a right to do with her body as she wishes, correct?
I think that I think if the unborn was a person, then no, she wouldn't, because that would violate the Human Declaration of Human Rights. Because that person has the right to exist. If we considered a zygote a person, but we don't.
So wait a second. Since a bum who is a person doesn't have a right to somebody's house, then why does the unborn, being a person, has a right to a woman's body?
because a bum doesn't have a right to somebody's house. And the reason that the zygote doesn't have a right to somebody's body, a woman's body, because
Okay,
it's her body.
Okay, so by the same logic, you just said just a second ago that if the unborn is a person, it would have a right to be there. But now you're saying different.
No, I'm saying that if you can't compare somebody who is homeless to a baby, because the person who's homeless is a person, but is also bound by the laws we have, whereas the zygote isn't, because it's not conscious yet, and therefore isn't aware of anything.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So so you telling me that the unborn being a person, because I'm gonna tell you something. Even pro-aborts have even given this argument. They have even said that even if you assume the unborn as a person, that doesn't mean being a person means the unborn has a right to a woman's body. Proven personhood, in other words, by her logic, doesn't mean that the unborn have a right to a woman's body. Those are two separate arguments. So are you saying that they are incorrect?
I'm saying that they're entitled to their opinion, because again, not all pro-choice.
Are you saying they are incorrect? I didn't ask you. Are they entitled to their opinion? Are you saying they are incorrect? That's the question I asked you.
I don't know if they're correct, because again, I can't know everything absolutely. I think they're incorrect, but again, thinking isn't knowing.
Wait a minute. So you don't know what a personhood defines a right to a woman's body or not.
No.
You said wait. Stop. You said you don't even know if they're correct or incorrect. So if we're talking about personhood and you don't know if they're correct or incorrect, then how can you know that you're correct on your argument about personhood?
Because again, this is where disagreements happen. Because again, it happens because like they see abortion, choice as a right for a woman to have, because it's her body, and therefore same thing with tattoos and piercings and all that stuff. Now again, the thing is that wouldn't be the case if, let's say, zygote had those rights, because again, they have the right to opinion that if push came to shove and we found out that zygotes did have personhood, therefore we should still endorse abortion. No, I don't think that the Declaration of Human Rights would then apply to zygotes. Therefore, abortion would become illegal overnight, because they are now declared people under the definition of the Human Rights Act.
Well, let's keep it real, Gary. If they shared literally the exact same opinion you did, it wouldn't be merely a case of you saying, well, they got a right to their opinion. You would be like, they're correct, wouldn't you?
No, because again, not every pro-choicer is the same.
So if someone agrees with you, you don't think they're correct. You wouldn't be like...
No.
Okay, so nobody is correct or incorrect.
No. It's about difference of opinion, because again, I have my feelings on pro-choice. Okay, they are my feelings.
So you don't think I'm wrong about my position? You don't think I'm wrong to say that a woman should not have a right to legally get an abortion? You don't think I'm incorrect on that, right?
I think you're mistaken on it, but it doesn't mean that I would make laws to make you change your mind. No.
Wait a minute, mistaken. So I'm incorrect. Your opinion, right? Mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. So wait. Hold on. So you do think there is a concept of correctness or incorrectness, yet you denied that when talking about the pro-aborts position.
No, because the pro-abort position is a nuanced one. Because there are people who are pro-abortion. I don't even like the word pro-abortion. Who are pro-choice, who believe that even if, let's say, for example, a zygote was proven to be a person, therefore abortion should still be legal. Okay,
No,
I don't agree with that position. Okay?
It's about you applying double standards, because no. Wait a sec, because you're saying that the pro-choice position is nuanced. But again, that's with the implication that the pro-life position isn't nuanced. So it's about correctness or incorrectness with the pro-lifer, but it's not with the pro-choice pro-choicer.
Right. But the thing is that pro-lifers aren't nuanced. I'll explain
All
why.
right, so you have a double standard. You have a double standard. You're not applying the same type of reasoning to the
no, but
position because just because you have a personal just because you have personal feelings that the pro-choice position is more nuanced than the pro-life position doesn't mean that the concept of correctness or incorrectness does not apply consistently in the same way.
Okay.
Because you think it's about correctness or incorrectness with the pro-lifer, but you think it's not about that with the pro-choicer. So basically, you think pro-choicers can argue any old nonsensical position they want to, but they'll be correct or incorrect. But it's not the same standards for the pro-lifer. That's a double standard.
No, it's not. I'll explain why. Because pro-lifers all believe, as far as I know, I mean, if there's nuance to this, please correct me, that abortion should be most illegal. Well, actually, yeah, probably illegal. And the thing is that it shouldn't be allowed because it's terminating the life of another human being. Now, again, that is a position that I heard many pro-lifers, and probably all pro-lifers, say. Now, if there's nuance to that, I've not heard it. Because the only nuance I've heard is from pro-lifers where some believe that abortion's not okay just in certain circumstances, like, for example, rape and which would still be pro-choice. There's ones who believe that it should be okay in all circumstances, but it should be in a certain... Again, that's the nuance of the pro-choice position. The pro-life position is it should all be illegal. Now, again, you can correct me by saying, oh, well, that's not a position that ex-pro-life advocate holds, and I'll listen to it. So please give somebody... So
that's not even what's relevant here. The relevant issue is our positions, based on correctness or incorrectness. Our positions in general based on that. It does not matter whether you're a pro-lifer or a pro-choicer. You think, the pro-life concept is based on correctness or incorrectness, but the pro-choice concept is not based on correctness or incorrectness. If we're talking about positions we're talking about positions in general, then it doesn't matter whether you pro-life or pro-choice. Both will be based on correctness or incorrectness. You cannot have a double standard, in one position and not the other. You can have a double standard to the pro-choice position. You cannot do that, sir.
Okay, but the thing is that the pro-life position isn't nuanced, and I'm trying to get right that
I don't care.
That's not the pro-choice position is.
It's not whether it's nuance. It's about whether it's a position of correctness or incorrectness.
Right.
Nuances have nothing to do with that principle, sir.
Okay.
Nothing.
So all right. Which is more correct? Okay. Believing that abortion should be okay if you've been raped or in subject of incest, or will it, again, how do you decide for that? You can't. It's a position of personal opinion and one of judging the situation. Now, I am of the position that abortion should be legal, but the woman gets medical option and told exactly what's going to happen, exactly the risks, and if she makes an informed decision, she should get it. That's the way it currently works, as far as I know.
No, let's not get away from the point here. What you are doing is trying to basically argue that pro-choicers don't really have to defend their position.
No,
wait, stop. You basically arguing they don't really have to defend their position, or they can say anything they want to say because it's nuanced. Because you think it's nuanced, being the pro-choicer. They can basically say anything they want. It's nuanced, and it's not correct or incorrect. And if it's not really correct or incorrect, logically speaking, they can say anything they want and not really have to defend anything because it's not really correct or incorrect. They don't have to defend a thing.
I never said that.
Oh, yeah, and that's literally exactly what you would be saying in essence, because you saying it's not correct or incorrect. They can say anything they want, and they could be incorrect, but they don't really have to prove it because it's not correct or incorrect. It's just a position.
Okay, The
If
thing
they,
is,
if it's not,
all right,
relying on, if it's not, wait a minute, if it's not relying on the foundation of whether it's correct or incorrect, then why would they have to defend it? Who
okay.
knows if they're incorrect, if they're correct or not? You're trying to say that there is no concept or basis of correctness or incorrectness in the pro-choice position. They don't
No,
have to defend anything if there isn't.
no, I never said that. What I was trying to say is that, again, the thing is that I can't I can't provide evidence. Let's say somebody held the position that abortion should only be done in cases of rape and incest. Let's say somebody held that position. Now, what facts and logic can I provide that that position is wrong? Again, that's a matter of opinion. But what I can say is that, again, I'm not applying a double standard here. I just say that if someone wants to defend that position, they should. Again, I can't defend a position I do not hold, and I think people should defend their positions. Again, that's the reason why you misunderstood me.
No,
Again, I'm
you
not saying
just
you
said
should.
that if someone agreed with you, you wouldn't say that they're correct because the pro-choice position is more nuanced, and obviously you think you're
Well,
correct, sir. Otherwise, you wouldn't hold the position. It's not merely that you think it's just an opinion. You truly believe you are right. You wouldn't hold the position if you if you truly believe you were wrong. It's not
okay.
merely just your opinion, sir, because you argue against my position as if you truly believe I am wrong or incorrect.
Yes.
Let's not pretend otherwise.
Yeah, but there's a reason why I would argue against your position, not against somebody who believes, let's say, for example, believes that abortion should only be legal in cases of rape and incest. Is because, again, they're not going to try and make laws that all abortion should be legal. And at least with them, you could at least have the argument that again, what's wrong with the other percentage of women who don't? And then they could give their reasons why. Again, it doesn't mean we can't have a discussion. It's just that it's going to get to a point where it's a agree to disagree.
If
Okay.
you truly believe my position is wrong, then necessarily you truly believe your position is correct. You can't get around it.
Okay, I believe my position is correct.
Hey,
All right,
I have a question, Gary, for you.
Go ahead.
If it was shown that a 1-year-old and a fetus were equally human, do you think the law should protect both of them or one of them?
I think it should protect both of them because again, you can't apply the laws separately for two different things.
Then what makes a fetus any different from a 1-year-old? They're equally human.
A zygote is not a human being. It doesn't have emotions. It doesn't have pain receptacles. It doesn't have emotions. Yeah, it doesn't have anything what we would consider to be a human being. It's the size of your little finger.
well,
Maybe
you can.
to the size of your ring finger. It's about that size. And the thing is that if you do it in that short time, it will not feel anything. It doesn't have any pain receptacles. It's basically a non-person.
Well, you can argue against personhood, humanity, or what have you, but you can't get around the fact that it has a human nature. You can't get
All right,
around that. That's indisputable. That it has a human nature. You can't get around that.
It doesn't look human.
So what? It has a human nature.
In what way?
Does it have a human nature? Yes or no?
Well, what do you mean by human nature?
I mean by the virtue of being a human being. It has it has a human DNA. It grows and develops like a human being. Like, for example, when you put a sperm in the womb, if a sperm standalone is implanted in the womb, it's not going to grow and develop like a human being. If you put an embryo in the womb, it's going to grow and develop like a human being. If you put a skin cell in the womb, it's not going to grow and develop like a human being. But again, if you put an embryo in the womb, it's going to grow and develop like a human being. So, the differences between, those things means it has a human nature. It has a distinct, and it may
It's
have
potential human.
it may have a different blood type than the mother. It has its own distinct human DNA and all that other good stuff. So, it has a human nature.
It's a potential human being.
You
It does
can say
not have
potential
human
human.
nature yet. He has the
That's
potential to have it.
stupid. That's ridiculous because if it has a human nature, potentiality has nothing to do with nature, sir. You're making a category mistake.
No. It is a potential human being in that it isn't a
No,
human being yet.
you can say it's not a human being yet, but you can't argue against the nature of it. That's the point.
Okay. How do you classify a human being? Because maybe we classified it differently.
Are you gonna play this stupid game, sir? You can't put an embryo fetus into the womb or an elephant embryo into a human womb and it'll grow. You can't do that, sir. You clearly can make the distinction. You know dang well what we're talking about.
Okay, what do you mean that it is a human being because it could become one?
Say what?
It's a human being because it can become one. Is that what you're saying?
But you starting off with the presupposition about become one. You haven't even proven that presupposition. You started off with that presupposition before you even argued it. That's called begging the question.
No, it is not, because again, because it's a potential human being. It's not an actual human being.
No, you're just making that assertion. You're not giving an argument for it. Start off with not assuming that in your premises, and then work to the conclusion. Let's try this.
Is a fertilized egg a human being?
Say what?
Is a fertilized egg a human being?
Dude, we're all fertilized eggs, dude. Come on, stop that nonsense.
No. I'm asking a legit question. Let's say a man and woman have sex on the first night.
Stop. I'm giving you a legit answer. You are technically a fertilized egg, dude.
No, I'm a human being. There's a difference.
You are a fertilized egg. At what point does it stop being just a fertilized egg and then a human being? You haven't even argued that. You just said fertilized egg. It depends on
because it stops being a fertilized egg on the first or second week of, then it becomes a zygote, then it becomes something else, then it becomes something else, and then it becomes.
What in between the transition makes it to stop being a fertilized egg into a human being? What specifically is going on in that transition for this to happen?
It develops hands, it develops human-like features like toes and fingers, it develops brain pathways, it develops stuff like, for example, pain receptacles, it develops all these things which makes up what we consider people to be human. That's the difference between, let's say, for example, a human and a fertilized egg. One is a human being and one isn't. One's a potential human being.
But here's the problem, sir. All humans develop differently, sir. So if you have one human that develops those things at a certain point, you may have another human being that won't develop those things till like a day or two later around the exact same period. So by your argument, one is a human being and the other isn't, even around the exact same period.
If it's around the same period, the other one will develop those things in a few weeks, if not a month, because again, it's an estimate of when these things will occur. We know whereabouts they will occur.
Oh, wait, so
in developmental of babies in the womb.
Wait a minute, so you make an estimate. So you make an estimate.
No. We say, like, for example, we know when zygotes will become more, and all the stages of development, like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, that sort of thing. Now, again, you might be correct that that's not applicable to every single baby in the history of the world, but it's based upon the normal development of the normal child in the womb. It's a good basis to go upon.
Here's why your argument is dangerous. Okay, like let's say that we take the defined standard medical definition of viability, for example, and the standard definition is said to be 24 weeks. Every pregnancy develops differently. In other words, you may have one baby that's viable at 24 weeks, but you may have another one that may not be viable until 25 or 26 weeks. You may have a baby that will be viable before 24 weeks, because you have had babies that have survived at, like, let's say 21 weeks 6 days, which is weeks before the 24-week viability period. But the standard is 24 weeks for viability. So what I'm saying to you is development is different for each child. So if we use the sort of logic that you use for viability, what we'd be doing is, let's say if a woman, gets an abortion at 23 weeks, she could be killing a viable unborn child. She very well may be killing a viable unborn child by getting an abortion at 23 weeks. If it's even possible that the child can be viable before 24 weeks, she may be killing a viable unborn child. So basically, your position, what it does is it plays risk. Which one could be a human being or viable, or which isn't? It plays risk, because if it ends up killing one that actually meets your criteria, then you violated your own criteria.
Okay, but again, this is the thing, is that I go with what the scientific community says on this subject, which is that 22 to 23 weeks is when the zygote starts to develop everything that we would consider somebody to develop personhood. Okay, now there are doctors who say that they will perform abortions after that period. Now, I do not agree with that, by the way.
I mean, it doesn't matter what the scientific community says. We have a medically established point, according to the opinions of medical professionals / scientists, that 24 weeks is the point. Now, with that being established, there could still be a possibility that before 24 weeks, you may be dealing with a viable entity in the womb. And if that happens, if you have a viable entity in the womb and a woman gets an abortion, then she's killing a viable entity. Your position, sir, makes the risk. It makes the risk that a viable unborn entity may be killed.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Stop. Yes, it does. Because if the established point is 24 and a baby is viable at 23, then yes, your position does play risk, because your position says at 23 weeks a woman can get an abortion and the child may be viable at that point. So yes, your position does play risk.
Yeah, but you're under the false assumption that, again, the professionals will just go and do it. No, they go study it and make sure that it doesn't have the things that I just need.
No, let's stop that. I'm not under no false assumption that the medical professionals would actually do it. That has nothing to do with anything. We were assuming that if an abortion was carried out at that point, you could be killing a viable entity.
Hey, Antonio.
Yes, yeah, what's up, Jackson?
I'm gonna invite one of my friends who also talks a lot about politics at my school, if that's okay.
Is he pro-choice?
He is. Yeah, he's pro-choice.
Oh yeah. Let's get him in here.
All right.
All right, sounds good. But yes, again, let's use logic here. Follow the logic, Gary. Pay attention. A viable entity is existing at 23 weeks because all unborn babies develop differently. You have a viable entity at 23 weeks. The medical standard is 24 weeks. If they conduct the abortion on that viable entity at 23 weeks, then you are killing the viable entity before the established point of 24 weeks. Therefore, your position is playing risk. Follow the logic. You can't escape that. Period.
Okay, I'm going to say something. Right, the thing is that you're assuming that, again, it would just be carried out without any further with any tests you
Give
can
me,
do.
oh my goodness, this is laughable. This is
No, it is
pathetic.
not, because again,
This is
you
pathetic.
just think that
I
it's
dig
done
you up.
without the things being done. It is
There's
not.
no excuse that you cannot understand that obvious direct
Right,
logic.
right, but again, you're under the misunderstanding that
I just told
that the
you. I just told you
people.
if it was carried out. If it was carried out on a viable entity before the established medical viability period,
Yeah.
nothing else is relevant. Period. Come
Okay,
on.
if it is, then the person who did it should not be in the medical field. Period. Because that
Oh my
person didn't
god.
do
Oh my god.
the medical thing and test whether the baby was medically a viable person. And if he was, he should
Oh
be
my
done for murder.
goodness. Oh my god. Oh wow, bro. This is ridiculous.
You don't
See,
seem to understand
this is the nonsense of the pro-abort position. This is,
this is
you
not.
know, how pro-aborts like to circle around in absolute lunacy and nonsense. This is pathetic.
No, it is not. I pointed out that again, you don't seem to understand that this is a medical field. Okay, and as such, they have a a a legitimate idea of care that they have to perform and jurisprudence that they have to perform. If they do not do that, they can be liable legally and financially. You don't seem to
All
understand
they
that.
know is all they know is that the pregnancy is 23 weeks. That's all they
Right.
know.
And you think that that's where it
They're not
stops.
gonna they're not gonna do any further tests.
Yes, they
The
are.
way the issue is the viable point is 24 weeks. So if they did it at 23 weeks, they technically wouldn't be breaking the law,
Yes, they would.
even if the unborn was viable.
Yes, they would.
A week before, wait,
Because
stop. A week before 24 is before 24. Before 24 is not breaking the law. If the law says 24, then doing it a week
it's
before
22 to
24 is
23.
not breaking the law.
It's 22 to 23. And the thing is that even that is not an absolute because there's babies that can get it, there's fetuses that can get it at 21, and you think, and do you know what they do? They go and
Okay,
look.
okay, then let's cross it back. If a fetus was viable, let's say 21 weeks, 6 days, and they did it exactly then they wouldn't be breaking the law.
Yes, they would, because they have to go and look.
How would they even be able to tell? There's a thing called
Because
there's a thing called
because the tests they
misdiagnosis.
can run.
There's a thing called misdiagnosis, sir. Just because if here because here's the thing, they might test, they might be observing the development of a woman's baby, right? And she prematurely has a child at, let's say, 26 weeks, and then the child dies because the child wasn't viable. That can happen. I mean, it's not like they're going to be able to pinpoint for absolute certainty that the child will be viable by looking at tests. They're not going to be able to do that, sir.
I mean, I don't know how to explain my position any clearer, which is that
You can't explain it. That's the point.
no, because the problem is that you seem to think that doctors just go on a guess. They don't. They're professionals. They do that. I don't know what job you do, sir.
I'm not saying that
Okay, what job do you do?
they're not going to be able. They're not going to be able
No,
to
answer my question.
pinpoint.
What job do you do?
What job do I do?
Yeah, what do
You
you do
asked
for a
about-
living? You
What
don't
does
have
that
to
have
tell
to
me
do?
exactly the job you do. Just what field is it?
What does it have to do with this
No,
conversation? This
it's
literally
medical.
has nothing to do with this conversation.
No,
I'm not asking
don't.
you. No, it does not. I'm not asking your personal business.
Okay.
This
Well,
literally has nothing
let's
to
say for
do.
example, you work I don't know in the bank or something.
This
Is this
is ridiculous. This
no
is
no?
ridiculous.
This is the
I can't
problem.
believe you even Are you
I'm,
freaking
I'm, I'm
serious?
making, I'm making problem. You don't seem to understand that these are medical professionals who have to do tests. They can't go on assumptions. They can't just say, "Oh, it's 21 weeks. I'm not going to do the test." It doesn't work like that. It cannot
I'm
and
not
does not work like that.
okay.
Never has worked like that.
You know how pathetic your logic is. That's like saying, like Aaron Ra. He's an evolutionist, but he doesn't have any like formal training in the study. But to say, what does he do? That does not impugn his understanding of the evolutionary theory, okay, or the fact or whatever they want
Right.
to call it. That has nothing to do with anything. So wherever I work or whatever my field is, literally it has no
No.
relevance
I
on this
wasn't.
subject.
I wasn't
None.
saying it. I wasn't saying it. So that makes you unqualified to talk about it. Hardly no. What I was using it for was is that these people was to this point. You have things that you have to do as part of that job to make sure that you do it well and you do it to within the law that's said by that particular job's body or whatever, and by the employer you work for. That would be correct, wouldn't it?
Say
Okay.
what?
I said, as part of the work you do, you have to abide by the laws set by your employer and the laws set by the body who covers the employment you do. That would be correct, wouldn't it?
That you have to abide by certain guidelines.
Yeah. That's the point I'm trying to get across. Is that doctors have to abide by certain guidelines about, for example, the tests they have to run,
You didn't even have to ask about my personal occupation to make that point, so sir.
right. But I was making that point. The reason I was asking is because it would make it easier for me to explain it in that sort of context. Because, for example, it's easier to explain it to somebody when it's in a context that they understand. Because again, that's the whole point I'm trying to get across is that they can't make guesses. They can't just say, "Oh, it's 21 weeks, therefore we're going to do it." They can't do that. They wouldn't do that.
Okay, so let's suppose.
Because they would be because A, they'd be first of all they'd be discharged from being doctors. They'd be struck off because they're not doing what they're being paid to do for a start. Secondly, they can test these things. They can do numerous tests. I think they could do prod tests. They could do all sorts of X-ray tests, and they would do it triple time over because people who work in bicycle clinics are medical professionals who've done this numerous times and know when to do it and when not to.
Are you assuming that, they cannot
It's
be
not assumption.
incorrect after all these tests? Are you assuming that, the opinion they have after all these tests at the end cannot be incorrect?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it diminishes the chances of them being incorrect.
So what if they done all these tests and they were actually incorrect?
But if they've done the jurisprudence and done all the study, then again, and then they still go ahead, and it was to find out that they were wrong. There's going to be heads to roll because there was a mistake somewhere down the line, and there's going to be reform because of that. Again, it's not one of those things where it's just nothing actually happens. Things will happen if that's the case, because there was a breakdown somewhere along the line, and then they'll try and fix it. Then this is the problem: is that like there is a fix.
So you believe that. Hold on a second. I have somebody calling me. Hold on, just a moment.
Go ahead.
What's new?
Well, if you got anybody you want to invite, I'll do it now because there's only four people watching.
I'm still here.
Well, I'm working on that right now. If y'all want to talk amongst yourselves, or you want to ask each other questions, go ahead. I just gotta deal with a few things real quick.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
If life doesn't, begin at, sorry, if life doesn't begin at conception, where does it begin, and how is it dangerous to presume that it just starts anywhere at any time or just at conception?
Most most scientists say it's 23 to 22 weeks when it becomes what we would consider to be a human being as pain receptacles, that sort of thing. Therefore, it's unethical to do it in that time frame. But there are abortion doctors who do it at that point. Like for example, George Tiller, I think, did it, if I'm correct. Yeah. So again, if you ask me personally, I think that anything that could negate abortion is a positive thing, because I don't agree. This is the thing that I don't think Antonio gets, is that I'm against abortion, but I'm pro-choice because it gets people more informed about it and therefore know the medical risks of it. And the thing is that this is a medical issue. It shouldn't be an ethical issue, because again, like the thing is that, let's say for example, I mean, like, so are you totally pro-life?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what happens if somebody's been raped or is a victim of incest? Would you not say it's okay then?
Well, no.
No.
It's still not okay whether or not they've been raped or they've been murdered. It's still, if they've been raped or if they've been drugged, it's still murder, and it still has a chance to live. Whether or not, it's a product of rape or drugged or anything like that, it still is a life form and it still has the chance to live. But you can't justify murder on that platform just because of rape, just because of that. And, Antonio has his friend, I shouldn't share the name, but she was raped and she had a child, and it's one of the best things she's ever happened. Even though she hated the experience and hated, being raped, she still had the child, and that was one of her, best things that's ever happened to her. So good can come out of bad, and that's one of my arguments as well.
Okay, but again, that's the whole point of pro-choice. It isn't saying that because you've had a rape, therefore you must have an abortion. I'm saying, here's a link because in case you don't want to live with the memory of that. And that's the whole point, is that it's that every day you're reminded of that by looking at this child. That, again, it wasn't consensual that gave birth to it. It was unconsensual. It was a horrifying event that you have to repeat over and over by looking at it.
Why can't you just, give it up for adoption and then forget all about it?
Because it coming out is a violation. It's a violation of it's re-going through that violation that just happened.
That's what. Here's the nonsense behind your thinking, Gary. Here's the thing. Would you be against abortions outside of things like, rape, for example? Would you say abortions outside of such cases should be illegal, yes or no?
I would say such things should not be illegal, no.
All right. So if you're going to use arguments like rape, you're not going to be taken seriously, because you don't think arguments outside of that should be illegal. So what it would just amount to is trying to just exploit rape for your position. That's all it would be. Yes, it would be, because you don't think, because rape is a very serious thing, and it's not like you're saying, okay, I can see the horrific instances of things like rape or whatever, and so abortion should only be limited to things like that. But that's not how you're thinking this issue through. You don't really think abortion should be illegal really at all. So it's not like you are just using rape as some sort of sympathetic type of thing, and where you're like, yes, it should only be allowed in this case because it's such a horrific circumstance that it pretty much overlooks other non-serious circumstances, like say a woman that conceived in consensual sex and just got pregnant when she wasn't ready to. That's quite different than her conceiving, in rape. Or
Okay.
maybe she didn't use contraception method and conceived when she didn't want to and decide to get an abortion. That's way different than conceiving in rape. But despite the fact knowing that it's way different, you still think it should still be legal for a woman to just kill her child, period, if she conceived in consensual sex and didn't use any contraception to prevent pregnancy. You still think even in that instance that abortion should be legal.
Yes, I do think that, because again, the woman has the right to choose what she wants to do with her body.
Okay, so if the underlying premise of all these positions is she just has a right to do what she wishes with her body, then it really makes no difference to rape, to consensual sex, or nothing. It doesn't make any sort of real difference, because at the end of the day, you're still going to say a woman should be able to kill her unborn offspring, period.
Not period. There are limitations.
What limitations? What example would...
I gave you the time scale, which is 23 to 22 weeks in. She shouldn't be allowed to. But again, there are people who disagree with that.
What limitations are there, let's say, at 2 weeks pregnancy? What limitations are there?
If it's going to hurt her, for example, if it's going to hurt her in some way, like it was medically unsound, then that shouldn't be allowed. But if it should be.
So there's no limitations at 2 weeks, right?
No. Well, I'm sure there is, but I don't know them.
So you just sure that they are. It sounds like you're very uneducated on this issue, sir.
No, I'm not uneducated. I'm not a medical doctor, so therefore I cannot say who deals with this subject. So therefore it would depend on. I would have to be a medical doctor to know every single thing of was it viable. Is there certain medical ways that it is unviable to do it. Again, again, you would have to speak to a medical doctor, which I am not. So again, you'd have to speak to them. I'm just saying, so there are, but I don't know what they are.
Well, I'm very well researched on this issue, sir, and I've never heard of a single limitation at, let's say, 2 weeks of pregnancy. Wherever abortion is legal, I've never heard a single limitation at 2 weeks. Never.
Well, if it's medically viable for the woman to do it, then I'm sure there isn't ethically. I'm saying, but medically there may be. So
because even if it's possible that there's a limit, even if there is a possible there is a limitation, then you basically are telling me that it's even possible that there could be limitations as early as 2 weeks. If it's even possible, then your position is untenable. If it's even possible.
Yeah, but it's to do with the woman. It's nothing to do with the child. It's to do with the woman and medical things to do with her, because she could have a very heavy blood count in her vaginal wall, and that could cause problems if they removed it. There could be other medical factors. Again, you seem to be under the and this is the problem that you've got, is that this is a medical procedure, and they would not proceed if it was medically unviable.
Wait a minute. She might have a blood clot, so they don't remove it. Something might happen, so they don't do anything and leave it there and let the pregnancy continue. What in the world are you talking about?
I'm talking about the fact that there's things that can happen after conception that again makes it medically unviable for abortion to happen in that particular time.
I know. for a fact that what you're saying doesn't make any kind of sense
Yes, it
because
does.
because if there was something going wrong in the pregnancy that would cause a serious issue to her, they would not let the pregnancy continue. If they truly believe that it would threaten her
This has nothing to do with the
life,
pregnancy. This has to do with things out. This has to do with, let's say, for example, if she had, let's say, for example, a very high blood concentrate on her vaginal wall, or she was high, or she was like anemic, or there's other things that could happen, which again interferes with the abortion happening for medical reasons. As I said, if ethical reasons, no. Medical reasons to do with the baby, probably not, no. I'm saying, but to do with her, probably yes, because of things I already named.
so here's the problem with what you're saying. The problem is that you were saying that her choice can be interfered because someone else says so. Even if they told her, look, this could, be very, very bad if you get an abortion right now. But she said, I still want to go through with it, period. You're basically saying that, they could tell her no, and there's nothing she can do about it.
No, they would advise her. They'd probably say wait a couple of weeks for, let's say, for the blood information to go down or for your blood count to get back up.
Well,
I
she
will
done
try
went over a
again
couple
and try
weeks.
back. Well, she
But,
thought the other advice they wouldn't carry on the procedure because they'd tell her that it would kill her basically. That's basically what they would put in that blood. So because again, they don't. It's you got to understand that it's a medically unnecessary procedure.
but here's the
I,
here's
I,
the thing. But here's the thing, though. They're not culpable for that because
yes, yeah.
there's a such thing as consent. All right, and if she and typically what happens is, if there's a particular procedure that may kill her, they sign over any liability. They sign the person getting the abortion signs over any liability whatsoever. So if she signs over liability and they perform the procedure and she dies, then they're not responsible.
Trust me, that would not happen.
So you saying that there isn't, a process to where she signs over liability, and if she dies in an abortion, then they won't be held responsible. You saying that doesn't happen?
Yeah, if there's something wrong with the woman, and she signed off to have an abortion, and they carried on knowing that, even if they told her, they would be liable.
This is the reason why when life-threatening when they're performing like a transplant, some sort of organ transplant, and they say, well, this could possibly kill you. So they're doing this transplant. They said beforehand that, look, you could possibly die from this, but we cannot be held responsible if you agree to go through with this. It's the same thing.
Right, but that's because that's a medically necessary procedure. You do understand there's a difference, don't you?
Say what?
There's a difference between a heart transplant, which is about saving somebody's life, where they would know that's a very strong possibility, and abortion, which is a medically unnecessary procedure.
Do an abortion. So abortion in general is not a necessary procedure.
No, it's a medically unnecessary procedure. You're correct. Yes.
So pretty much all abortions are pretty much almost all abortions are unnecessary procedures.
Not all of them. No.
I didn't say all of them were.
All right, but all right, but there are ones where, for example,
Most of them are unnecessary. Like if a woman wants to just wasn't ready to have a child, right? And she said, "I want to get an abortion." For that, that's an unnecessary procedure. That doesn't have to happen, but it's unnecessary by its nature. We have Emily here. How are you? can you hear us, Emily?
You might be muted by yours, basically. You might have to be muted.
Oh no, she probably is gonna try to reset. But all right. Like most abortion procedures are totally unnecessary. So if you're gonna say that they wouldn't do it because it's unnecessary, then why isn't an abortion banned in general? Because most of them are unnecessary.
No, I don't say that all abortions should be illegal. I'm saying that it's a better. This is the reason why it wouldn't be done, because it's a medically necessary procedure, and there'd be a safer way to do it. And she'd be told that. She'd told how long to wait, how and when to come back. That's the way it would work. Unless it's something that is a congenital, then you should be told the rest, and then if she gave consent, then it would go ahead.
Whether she had a blood clot or not, either way, the procedure is unnecessary.
Yes, it is. In both cases, yes. But she'll be told that.
Okay. What if she didn't want? So what if she didn't want to wait though? Does she not have the right to have it done right then and there if she doesn't want to wait?
Um, she'll be medically advised not to, and she'll be told when to come back and that when they can do it for her.
Okay, and
But if it's something that is
that the heck with it.
they'll just do it for her anyway. But they'll get her to sign a load of things beforehand.
I mean, what if she don't want to wait 2 weeks? Because some people argue like if she just does not want to be pregnant at all, she maybe don't want to wait 2 weeks. She just
Well, she'll be told why. She'll be told medically why.
mm-hmm.
I don't basically say no, we're not providing it because it'll put your life in danger. I should be
Right.
told it that one way, that directly.
And do they have the right to deny her if she
Yes.
says otherwise? Despite okay, then why don't they have the right to just deny women in general?
Because if it's medically viable, then they're not going to. If it's something that they can perform, because this is a medical issue, not a ethical one. This is about the medical safety of the patient. All they're doing is saying, is it medically viable to do this? Yes, therefore, let's go ahead.
So you saying only when there's a medical issue. But here's the thing: you're gonna always be dealing with a medical issue. Is abortion a medical procedure?
Yes, it is, yes.
Oh wait a minute. So it has to be a medical issue with her body personally to perform a medical procedure. But even when there's no medical issue with her body, they're still performing a medical procedure.
Yes, there's going to be medical issues when you're performing a medical. But, but again, this is not. Yeah, but it doesn't apply to all procedures you do. This is going to be like 2% of it.
So a medical procedure along with a medical issue with the body.
Yes. If there's medical issues that's going to put the patient's life at risk, and it's stuff that's congenital, they would tell the person that they can't perform it at that time and tell them when to come back. And they would be told why. It wouldn't be just, oh, just come back here. It'd be like, no, you've got this, and you should do this to duplicate it, and take this, and come back in 2 weeks, but it probably would have burned down. Unless it's congenital, then they would get her to sign a shitload of legal papers saying that they can perform it, and then do go ahead. And if she dies, then she's given them consent.
What if she came back? What if she came back in 2 weeks, and there was still an issue? Maybe it didn't resolve. Then what? Would they tell her to wait some more?
If it was something, it probably wouldn't, and they'd just get to sign a load of stuff so they could do it.
Okay. Because
again, I don't know, because I'm not a doctor of of this sort of science, so I don't know exactly how it would work. But I imagine that it would be either they would do it to the fact that if it was gonna, if it's something that's not going to clear up, they don't think it's going to clear up, but it's probably a congenital issue. They'd probably to say, right, sign all these and we'll go ahead anyway. But these are the risks. You may well carry on with the pregnancy.
But the thing is, all they have to do, whether there's a medical issue or not, all they have to do is say, you are taking a risk for this procedure to be performed. And if you exactly, so this same type of thing is often even written, even when there is no medical issue for the woman's body. They say, if something serious happens, you are assuming the risk of this procedure, even though the claim is abortion is generally safe for the woman. Anything can happen. So they still would be like, you still are, culpable for assuming this risk. You do not hold any liability to us if something happens to you. You assumed, all liability and responsibility for engaging in the risk of getting this abortion procedure. It doesn't matter whether there's some medical issue going on with her body or not. This is the reason why many abortion clinics are able to get off when such things like this do happen.
Hey, Antonio?
Yeah.
I have to go eat lunch with the family, so I'll be back in an hour or so.
All right, man. Thanks for coming by.
Bye.
But let's talk about this. It's a woman's body issue. Okay. Even if I were to say or agree to that premise, there's one thing I don't agree to. What does that have to do with saying she has the right to kill? How is that connected to a right to her body? Because the only way those two would be connected is if, you are assuming like abortion was self-defense.
Right, but where have I said that whether said that a woman, it gives a woman to murder. Again, it's not killing or murder. It's a removing of a thing that of something that isn't alive.
Is it your position that abortion is self-defense or a form of self-defense? I should say.
No.
All right. So if you're gonna say that a woman has a right to her body, but wait a minute, did you say that she's not killing when she gets an abortion?
No, she's not killing. No.
All right, it's time to disprove even more nonsense. Hold on. All right, give me just a sec, sir. All right.
Doctor who performs abortions is back in the spotlight this midday. His clinic shut down a while ago, but now he's reopened a surgery center.
He is now the only doctor in the area who will perform late-term abortions. That's for women who are up to 6 months pregnant. It's no surprise that he's been the target of protests, but as KVU's Jim Douglas shows us, there is a surprise in the doctor's story.
Am I killing? Yes, I am. I know that.
It's a jarring admission from anyone.
You hear that? Abortion doctor. Am I killing? Yes, I am. I know that. So don't sit up here and tell me that, when abortion doctors be performing the procedure, they're not killing.
So we're taking what one doctor says and using that as evidence. That's what all doctors think.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's about what is logic, okay? Let's just use logic here.
Okay,
They
let's use
don't.
logic.
All right. When a procedure is performed, it's not like their intention is for the unborn to be left alive. That's just stupid. Okay, that'll be just like. Wait a minute. So now you citing scientific inaccuracies, saying that it's not alive. That's even more dumb. This is ridiculous. I can't believe how uneducated you are on this issue.
All right,
saying it's not alive.
Yeah, but you conflated alive to living. There's a difference.
It doesn't. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You got to be freaking kidding me. I'm not even talking about okay, let's say that is a conflation. You just denied that it's alive.
No, I denied it's living.
Oh, wait a minute, so you denied it's living.
Yeah, living is not the
same
same
I
as
stand
alive.
corrected on that. You denied it was living.
Okay, I've got cells. They're
So
alive.
but is it alive though?
No, but I've got.
Is it alive? Is it alive? Is the unborn fetus alive? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's alive, then to perform an abortion procedure would be killing it.
No,
You cannot kill what isn't alive.
No, you conflated that alive with living. Living. You can only kill something that is living. You can't kill something that.
Stupid. That is stupid, dude.
All right. Every time I pick my, I've got living tissue. Every time I cut my toenails, am I cutting off something that's living? No. Am I cutting something that's alive? Yes, because it grows.
So wait a minute. You mean to tell me that plants, when the roots of plants, because they even say like you're killing plants when you extract them from their roots. There is a such thing as killing plants that does exist.
Yeah, because that even though they're non-sapient and non-sentient, they still counted as being as living.
Okay, but this is nothing new. And like trees are cut down or stuff like that you're not killing plants. Nobody argues this, sir. So to tell me that it's about your logic of living and it has to be living for it to be killed, it's just nonsense. A tree is alive, but you can still kill it by chopping it down. So don't give me this crap that alive doesn't mean you're killing. Come on. It's just demonstrably false. Yeah, let's use logic here. The goal ain't to leave the unborn alive. That is not the goal. Stuff like surgical dismemberment and vacuum suction does not. The goal is clearly not to have something that's alive or living or whatever you want to say when it's extracted outside the womb. You need to stop saying this nonsense and educate yourself on this issue.
I am educated on this issue.
Apparently not, sir.
Yeah, the other one has been insulting in this. I've not.
No, I'm not insulting you. I'm just saying you're ignorant.
No, not. That's another insult.
No, saying you're ignorant is not an insult. I'm just describing the fact.
How's it not?
What?
How
there's a difference between. Stop this nonsense. There's a difference between describing your level of knowledge or lack thereof and saying that like you're an idiot. There's a complete difference. I didn't say that. I said you need to get educated and you're ignorant. That's not insulting you, sir. There's a clear difference.
Okay, how do you know what my level of education is on this subject? Because again, as I said, because as I go,
Because you reveal it.
Is alive. It isn't
You
living.
reveal it when you talk to me. As you by the statements that you make, you reveal.
Yeah, the statements that are backed by science. The statements that are backed by science.
You just sit up there and told me what is a completely false statement, that being alive means that you're not killing something that is alive, and that's just scientifically false.
No, it is not. You can't kill that which is not living.
Plants are plants are alive. When you
yes,
cut down,
no, but they're also living.
Say what?
They're living.
But the unborn is living too.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is. It's living. Hold on. So you mean to tell me that the cells of a tree that results
are
in
alive, they're not living.
So the cells are living in the exact same way a tree is.
No, the tree is alive. The cells of the tree are living. Are alive.
This is ridiculous.
Right. The cells of your body are living cells, right? That are live cells. They're not living cells. They don't have consciousness. They're not alive on their own.
Wait a minute. So it's not killing if I shoot you.
Yes, because I'm living.
All right. So wait a minute. When do we start living?
They say that babies start what we consider living at 23 to 22 weeks.
We've already went over this. And I used logic to disprove what you were saying. We already went over this. So don't even revisit this, dude.
So what you did is that you said that that mistakes happen, which I agreed. That yes, there are babies that don't fit within that, but it's a good ballpark figure.
And let's look at
it's the scientific consensus that that's where.
And let's look at what living or alive means. Let's look it up. And let me screen share it.
Let's use a biblical dictionary, shall we?
All right. So see having, life, existing, living. There you go. Living. We're talking about alive. All right. Let's scroll down to another definition. Existence, alive, live. I'm okay. Yeah. All right. So what you're saying is just nonsense, dude. It's just entirely nonsense.
Where are those medical dictionaries?
I can't believe I even have to educate you on this nonsense. This is ridiculous.
No, I'm just using the medical term you're using from a concise internet dictionary.
All right. I can prove to you right now that you absolutely are not using the proper logic here, because here we go. The American Heritage Medical Dictionary, alive, having life, living.
That's a free dictionary.
This is from an American Heritage Medical Dictionary. It's right in front of you, dude.
But so
alive, another medical dictionary, living medical dictionary for the health professions, for health professions and nursing, living, perceptive, mental. It's the same thing. It's right in front of you. If you're gonna deny crap in front of you, then leave my hangout. I'm not gonna do with this nonsense.
No, but you don't understand what you just read. It said that you could be able to perceive things.
Get out my hangout, dude. Get out. See you.
Wow.
Take a hike, dude. I'm not putting up with this nonsense. I showed you the definition right in front of you. Now you're gonna insult my intelligence and say that I don't understand what I'm reading. You need to take your leave.
But then it'll just be you. Again,
You need to take your leave. I'm not arguing with you anymore. Get out my hangout right now. Go. I'm not gonna argue with you any longer. Because if I'm gonna read something directly in front of you and you're gonna sit up here and insult my intelligence and say that I don't understand what I'm reading, then there is no further
No,
need
no,
for
no,
us
no.
to even
I
continue
wasn't. I
this
wasn't
conversation.
insulting your intelligence.
You just sit up here and say, "Oh, you don't understand what you're reading."
No, no, no. If that's what you no, because again, I'm not. I don't say that I understand it either. I'm not a medical doctor.
Give me a freaking break. Oh my goodness. Now we're trying to play this
I
thing.
mean, my degree's in English, so we can, if it's English, I can.
Oh, oh my goodness.
I'm just telling you what people who are medical doctors have told me. So again, I'm rather to not believe people who are in the
Have a
field
good
than
day,
what they
sir.
told me.
Have a good day, sir. I'm not going to put up with this nonsense. I've been very, very patient with this guy. I'm not going to put up with this nonsense. I showed him the definition right in front of his face. Living, alive, alive, living. I showed him more than one medical dictionary definition. I showed him, a standard dictionary definition. I showed him two medical dictionaries, and he still tried to play this stupid game. This is the crap these pro-aborts do. This is the nonsense these pro-aborts engage in. They try to play stupid, and they try to play with definitions. They try to obfuscate the conversation, and they're not honest. This is beyond intellectually dishonest nonsense right here. This is insanity. All right. I'm gonna see if I can try to get some more people in here. Yes, Haley, that dude was absolutely ridiculous. That dude was just, man, his mind. It is just baffling. It is just mind-boggling, unbelievable, unflippin' believable. There is no way anybody can be this dang clueless. I refuse to believe anybody is this clueless. You see, when you again, people, when you attempt to justify the unjustifiable, this is the nonsense you end up. This is the nonsense that happens. This is the crap that you end up doing. There was absolutely no excuse for that crap. I'm gonna hold on, people. I'm gonna try to invite someone in here. Um, let's see. Come on, let me invite her. Let's see if. There's got to be a way to get Haley in here because I'm trying to invite her from inside the chat, but it's not pulling up her name. Hold on, let me try a few more things here. All right, let's. Hmm. We definitely see there's so many Haleys here, but it's not popping up. These specific Haley I'm trying to invite into this room. All right, I'm gonna try something real quick. This may I'm not sure if this is gonna close the hangout or not, but or I may be, gone for a second, but I'm gonna attempt something, and if I end up I'm gonna attempt something. If it closes the hangout, then I apologize. But if it doesn't, then I'll be right back shortly. I'm gonna try to get someone in here, but I gotta try something real quick to see if it'll work. All right, here we go. All right, I rarely even get to the point to where I want to just kick somebody out. But if you're going to just have blatant facts and blatant information presented in front of your face, then I'm not going to tolerate the nonsense. I had it directly in front of him. I don't understand. You may not understand it. Like, no, that's cognitive dissonance. That's a desperate appeal to deny facts because you are so freaking consumed in your pro-abortion position that you want to deny direct facts in front of your face. It is freaking insane. I'm not gonna play these games with people. There's no excuse for that nonsense. Absolutely no excuse. I had literally had direct facts in front of his face. I'm like, no, we're not a medical professional. We don't really understand it. And then he was asking me crap like, um, hold on a second. I'm getting another call. It's just not pulling. I'm trying to invite someone in here, and it's not pulling their name up at all. Well, Gary, you're gonna come on my chat and talk more nonsense. You had direct facts and evidence right in front of you. It was right there in front of you, dude. And you say, we're not medical professionals. We don't really understand it. You desperately tried to deny direct facts in front of you. I'm not going to put up with that nonsense. You said alive does not mean living. I showed you a dictionary definition and it said alive and living. And then you said, well, that's not a medical dictionary. And then I showed you not one, but two medical dictionaries. And it said alive, living. Showed you two. And you still denied direct facts in front. You want to talk about what represents honesty? Having direct things in front of you and denying it, that shows that you don't represent honesty. So you have absolutely no basis to talk about honesty, sir. None. And it's not the first time that I've dealt with you in which this has happened. But for this relevant issue here, you're gonna deny stuff that's directly in front of your face. In terms of, well, I'm not a medical professional, you're not, dude. That's not gonna fly. Not in my hangout. Not gonna fly. It's almost as if you were like trolling me almost. To where it's almost as if you wanted to get kicked. We're gonna figure this out, Haley. I'm gonna get you in here one way or another. I'll figure it out somehow. But as far as Gary's concerned, that's just not. No, you have direct facts in front of you, and you want to just deny direct evidence in front of you. I ain't got time for it. I really don't. I don't have the time. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. We might be able to get Haley in here. I think I just found the fix. If you got my invite, Haley, try to come in now. Yep.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Not too bad. I told you I would figure this out.
Awesome.
I have to apologize for my lack of patience. I just could not put up with that nonsense anymore.
Hey, I understand. Yeah, he was being pretty ridiculous, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's almost as if he was trolling me almost. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that was what was actually happening. But I mean, a life doesn't mean living, okay? Like I showed you, a general dictionary definition disproved this claim. Showed them two medical definitions disproved this claim. Said that's not a medical dictionary. Like I showed you two, not one, two, and you still said the same nonsense, and then tried to just insult my intelligence, and then to get out of his hole he ducks for himself. He's like, well, no, I'm not insulting intelligence. I'm saying none of us are medical professionals. So I'm like, it may be more to it. Like, dude, get out of here. Get out of here. I'm not trying to hear that crap. I'm not even trying to entertain your nonsense.
Yeah, that's just what they do. They twist and deny science to fit their worldview.
Yep. Your volume's a little low. Is there
I
any way
noticed too. It's a little low.
Hmm. Is this better?
a little bit, but not by much.
Hmm. Hang on, guys. Let me get outside.
Oh, matter. Yay.
Was you watching that debacle, Jackson?
What?
I don't know if you saw what happened. Maybe I think you were probably like eating a meal around the time, but that Gary dude we were talking to,
Mm-hmm.
he was saying that alive isn't the same as living because he says like the unborn is alive, but the unborn isn't living. And then I showed him a general dictionary definition, and it said alive was living, right?
He
And
just
then he said
confused
that's
them.
not. Then he said um, that's not a medical dictionary. Then I showed him not one but two medical dictionaries that show him that alive was synonymous with living. And then he said, "Well, you're just not understanding it." And then like, what? I'm like, "What?" Now you just insulted my intelligence. And then he tried to get himself out of the hole he dug, and then just said, "Well, no, well, both of us are not medical professionals." So he was trying to act like there was more to it than that, and it was just pathetic. Deny direct facts and evidence in front of your face. I didn't have time for it, so I kicked him out the room.
That's horrible. That's really, really, really bad.
Yeah. And he said, he's gonna put like some crap in the chat. He said that this guy kicks people don't go in. And he says, sorry, I don't think that represents honesty. You know what doesn't represent honesty? When you have um the right facts in front of you and you keep on continue to play deny ad nauseum. That's cognitive dissonance, all right? And I'm not going to put up with that crap in my hangouts. That's not going to happen.
What
Hey
did he?
guys, is this better?
Yeah.
Much better, Haley. Thank you.
All right.
So Haley, are you pro-abort or
Oh no,
No.
I'm definitely pro-life.
thank the Lord?
She's far from it. In fact, in the forum that I run on Facebook, she's been a great addition to the page, and um, I made her a new admin, and she's done so much for the page, and she's been an invaluable asset to the growth of the page, and yeah, she knows her stuff.
That's good.
She's amazing, man.
Thanks, Antonio.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Haley.
We got two just young, just amazing people here that just understand logic and reasoning and understand the problems with the pro-abort position.
Yeah.
And when you gotta get to a point to where I tell Haley all the time, pick your battles, and that was when it got to that point to where he was denying direct stuff in front. You basically what the Bible would say, casting pearls before swine,
Yeah.
and you wasting your time at that point. I told him to leave, and well, to be fair, he didn't leave immediately because I said something else to him. But then he had said some more nonsense after that, after he replied to me, and then I kicked him because I wasn't going to put up with him anymore.
Yeah, I mean, who do you have to be to come on here and represent murder and then start questioning people's intelligence and then contradicting your own statements with facts? It's just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seemed like circular reasoning almost.
It really was like constant circular reasoning. In fact, if you're going to tell me that living does not mean alive, which to any person who uses common sense, you know that's not true. The definitions are synonymous. I mean, pro-aborts like to try to think that there are some different type of thing, but there really aren't at all. It's just another way to say the same thing. That's all it is. You
Yeah.
have a number of different words that basically say the same thing. Like when you say somebody is smart, or when somebody is um, intelligent or something like that. That's two different terms, but you're basically saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things to where you use different words, but it's saying the same thing: alive and living. I think what he was trying to do was basically saying that um, the unborn doesn't experience life in the same way we do. I think that's what he was trying to do. And he was trying to say, well, you would have to experience things like memories, or you have to experience things like joy and sadness and all this other stuff and what have you. Or maybe he meant that once you are born or at a certain point later in pregnancy, maybe they experience things to where it would be subjectively defined in his circular reasoning as living. Whatever his definition is, it's just dumb, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah. I mean, I ask a lot of people this question. If it's true that a 1-year-old baby and a fetus are found to be, the same in human equality, then should both of them be protected or just one? The alive one or the dead, or the one who's going to be aborted?
I think that's a good point.
And I really don't like how he kept repeating that a woman has the right to her own body, because really an unborn child is not an appendage of the mother.
That's right. It's not like it's a limb or something like that or anything like that. It's completely separate, unique entity which can have its own blood type that's different than the mother's, and also with its own unique, separate human DNA.
Exactly, and did you see all the things I posted in the chat?
Yeah, you posted a ton of information, kind of like our good friend on the forum. I'm not going to say her name outright here, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, you posted a ton of very helpful stuff, very informative stuff there.
mean, he's correct in that a woman has a right to her own body, but
I agree.
not the body of anybody else.
All right. What'd you say?
I said the key word is own body, not someone else's body.
Yeah, that's right.
The thing about pro-choicers is that they really don't understand bodily autonomy. Like, the premise of it is that you can do whatever you want to or with your body as long as it doesn't harm another body besides your own. And that's why most pro-lifers are pro-life. If we didn't care about the body being affected, then, we wouldn't be pro-life and there wouldn't be a problem.
But I was trying to tell him that the only way that he can connect the issue with abortion, exercising a woman's right to her body, is if he was going to try to make a case of self-defense. Because, for example, we all have our own bodies, but we have the right to not be attacked, by some random person without cause. And if we were to defend ourselves against that person, we'd have every right to do that. We'd be exercising, the autonomy over our bodies in that sense by self-defense. So again, we would have the right to, attack back in order to stop the assailant from attacking us. You have the right to exact, sort of an offensive defense, if you will. If it's necessary to, attack it back to defend ourselves, we have every right to do that at that point. So we would be exercising our autonomy by self-defense. If he's going to say that, getting an abortion is a woman exercising a right over her body, then the only way he can make that case is if he assumed that abortion was a method of self-defense. And I asked him, are you making an argument that abortion is self-defense? And he said no. So by his own, by him admitting it himself, by his own admitting of the point, there's literally no way for him to make his case that abortion is exercising a woman's right to her body without trying to make a case of self-defense. If you cannot make a case of self-defense, then you cannot make a case at all.
I would also like to add that in the case of abortion, the woman is not the one being attacked.
There you go. That's right. It's not like the unborn just hopped into a woman's womb and started attacking her body or something like that. That's not how it works. It doesn't work like that with any mammal.
Exactly. There's no possible way the unborn could have even consented to being there. There's no way it could refuse to use its mother's uterus.
It didn't have a choice at all.
No.
That's like the same sort of thing like with an infant. An infant doesn't choose to inhabit, someone's property, whether it be the biological mother's, whether it be an adoptive parent or whatever. It doesn't choose to adopt it doesn't choose to get consent to live in somebody's property or in someone's property somewhere. Yet we would not sit up here and make the argument that you can just leave a baby in the middle of nowhere because you don't like the fact that it's in your property. We wouldn't make that same kind of argument then. That just because there was no consent there, an infant doesn't consent to anyone's resources, because a parent or an adoptive parent or whatever guardian is taking care of the infant buys certain resources like formula or certain types of food, buys clothing, buys medicine. The baby's living in their home. All right, these are all resources that are bought and owned by the person who bought them, right? But we don't sit up here and be like, yeah, this baby or whoever didn't get consent to use any of this stuff. This Therefore, I can just simply withdraw consent whenever, because basically it's like this. If if and even so, if a woman chooses to have the child, right? She that doesn't mean that she has to be a mother. She could drop the child off at a safe haven location. She can adopt the child out to someone else. So, if we want to use pro-abort logic for what they were saying, then as a woman have a right to her body to take the unborn out, a person should have the right to their property and just leave the baby, wherever they want. It should not matter what they do because they want to be like, well, the intention isn't to kill. The intention is just to terminate the pregnancy. Well, I could say that if someone left the baby in the middle of nowhere, the intention is to just get them out of their hair. The intention is just to leave them there. That doesn't mean their intention is to kill the child, because who knows, someone may pass that child after they're gone and pick up the child and take care of the child if they want to, right? But that doesn't mean. But you can see how insane their logic is when you apply it equally.
Yeah, Antonio, that's just one of the many standards pro-choicers apply to abortion that they don't really apply to anything else.
That's right. But here's how they try to escape the argument. They'll try to say, well, if there is someone else who can take care of the child, then she should be obligated to make sure she gets the child to someone else. But here's the thing. What does autonomy have to do with your own property? They're, adding in extra criteria for no reason. I thought the argument was about, your autonomy, not about, considering the other person to, get your autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it necessary to consider the need by their own logic? Why is it necessary to consider the needs of the other person to have autonomy? Like, for example, they don't consider the needs of the unborn when the abortion procedure happens. They don't consider the needs or anything. So why in the world do they all of a sudden think that you need to consider the needs of the of a newborn infant? By the same logic, why should I have to consider making sure the baby's taken care of by somebody else? For what? Where does that extra standard come in? They just throw it in out of the middle of nowhere. They literally pull it out the sky and add it as a necessary criteria. But we all know that there's a moral reason why we don't just leave babies to die when they're born, because there is a level of obligation that we assume, that should exist. Like if nobody, wanted to take, the baby off of the parents' hands, then they have a moral obligation to take care of that child whether they want to or not. But since we do have a society that says, okay, look, we will, take this child off your hands if you are not capable of taking care of the child or you don't want to. We have a caring society that will assume the obligation of that child. So that's the reason why that can happen. But let's say hypothetically no such society existed and nobody wanted to take care of that newborn infant. By pro-abort logic, they would have every legal, or not every legal, but every moral principle right to just leave that baby in the middle of nowhere by their own consistent logic.
It just goes to show you how crazy they can be if they're really consistent in their beliefs.
Yeah, there you go. Because the problem is, even if their positions are true, it proves too much. Actually, it serves to prove too much. It serves to prove one thing, and that's do parents in general have a more obligation to their children's well-being. And by their position, no, it doesn't work. They have no more obligation to their child's well-being in the womb, and they have no parental moral obligation when the child is born. If they consistently apply their logic, there is no moral parental obligation to that child's well-being at any time, whether the child is born or not.
Yeah. Hey, Haley,
Yeah?
check your messages because I sent you a how to be a pro-choice person step by step.
Oh, that is hilarious. You should see it.
Alright, I'll look into it after I'm gone from the chat. But thank you.
Antonio, you should screen grab it and show how true it is.
Oh, hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it here. Let's see. Okay.
And it's funny
I
how
got
they claim to
some-
be the logical ones.
Yeah, it
Not
really.
even close. Not even close. They're not even remotely logical. Not even a little bit. Really, I'm convinced they're not even really a little bit logical at all. Okay, I'm about to screenshot what Jackson made and sent me earlier. It's pretty funny.
Fun fact, I made it while I was listening to your conversation with that other guy. All those
Yes.
things I heard, I just wrote down.
Like,
So.
how to be pro-choice. 1, wake up and say to yourself, let's kill some babies. 2, somehow justify mass genocide of innocent creatures. 3, always avoid the question with a non-logical example that only works on a pro-choice platform. 4, have no logic. 5, always mention rape. 6, make up examples that would be totally irrelevant. 7, always talk over someone who is about to own me with logic and reason. 8, never stop backtracking to only answer my own question. 9, make sure to always represent all women in my specific situation. 10, support murder and hate rape. 11, get no respect and realize that I have wasted a lot of time on something horrific.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid.
You know,
It's
while
so
I
accurate, it's
stream,
sad.
you were arguing with that other guy. I forgot his name. I basically
Gary.
down what I was hearing. So yeah.
Yeah, he pretty much mirrored most of those points, if not all of them.
It's so accurate, it's sad. It really is.
Yeah. You should post it on Facebook and see how many people agree with that.
Ah.
But you got some very powerful stuff, Haley. That I've been seeing your a lot of your material. It's on point. It's really good.
Oh, my blog post?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. I can't. When you are trying to fight on the side of life, you really gotta have a whole lot of patience. And I think I tried so hard to be patient with Gary. I tried so hard, but I mean, you are shown something literally directly in front of your face, and then you're going to still try to explain it away because you are so desperate to justify your position that you explain away the dead obvious. I'm like, I don't have time for you. I really don't.
You should never have time for someone like that.
I mean, come on. How are you going to read something directly in front of you and then try to? At first, you said that that living doesn't equate to alive, and then he tried to make it seem like that there may be more to it than what's on the surface when he asked for a medical dictionary definition, and I gave him 2.
You know,
There is no excuse for that.
and they're like, pro-choice people are like some of the people in Black Lives Matter. They always try to find racism in something, and in this case, they always try to find something to justify abortion. And
Abortion is literally the most racist thing ever. It's
It
the genocide
is.
of African Americans. Oh my goodness.
It is, because you see, blacks proportionately are the most, the highest percentage people killed proportionately. Because the thing is, blacks are in the minority in the United States, I think. I think they're even lower in population than Hispanics. But yet, even though blacks are in the minority in the population, they have the highest proportionate percentage of abortions that happen. And that's not good. That they have the highest proportionate percentage despite the fact that they are in the minority. And in fact, a lot of Planned Parenthood clinics are strategically built near minority neighborhoods where black people live mostly. And tell me that that's not, anything racist going on. In fact, I can show you a video of this dude who called, multiple Planned Parenthood clinics, and you wouldn't believe what was said. I'm about to find this video and screen share it.
Oh, I can only imagine. Oh, welcome,
Let's-
Philip.
Yeah. How you doing, Philip? Man, good to see you, man.
Hey, how are you?
Not
Hey,
bad,
Philip.
man.
Hey,
Are
hey.
you pro-choice or
I'm sorry.
are you pro-choice or pro-life?
I'm not for abortion.
Okay.
I'm Christian, so I don't believe in that sort of thing.
All right, thank you. That's all we need to know for now.
That's all right.
But check this out though. I'm about to screen share this. It's called Planned Parenthood Racism Investigation. All right.
Thank you for calling the Planned Parenthood of New Mexico Administrative Offices. Hello, this is Irene.
Hi, I'm interested in making a donation today.
Did you want to do it by credit card or did you want to send in a check?
I'd like to send in a check, hopefully an anonymous check because of the cause. I'd like to send in a check. I'd like to fund one abortion.
Okay.
I was wondering if that would be possible.
Yes, we can definitely put that.
Can I make the donation specifically for a minority group?
Like a specific group of color or like a group of...
I mean, like, I want the abortion to be for an African-American baby.
Okay.
And I was wondering if that could be possible.
The exact amount we charge right now is $450 for an abortion.
Okay, $450.
And we can definitely designate it for an African-American.
Wonderful. Two things. I need your mailing address.
Okay.
I really want to do this, but I don't want to be put on any lists.
Yeah, we would definitely keep your donation anonymous.
Could you provide me with that?
Yeah, it's 719 San Mateo, Northeast. We're divided into quadrants here, so we're northeast, southeast, northwest.
Okay.
So we're northeast. Just to make it easy. Albuquerque.
And who should I address that to?
You can put it to my attention.
Should I also put attention to your vice president?
Her name is Roberta Velasquez.
I wanted to help fund multiple abortions. Could you also specify that this can be done for a specific group?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, we're really excited, because I really face trouble with affirmative action. I don't want my kids to be disadvantaged, against and it's blacks in college, and on the bus, the less blacks out there, the better. So.
Yeah, it's a strange time for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay. Roberta just came in and she's giving me a list of different prices we charge depending on the week. So, the majority of them are $425.
Thank you so much, and you'll receive the check in a few days.
4 out of the 7 states that endorse a racist agenda for money to target blacks: Planned Parenthood, New Mexico, Idaho, Ohio, and Oklahoma. That's not good.
My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like I'm calling them.
And he was very specific in what he was saying.
That is, wow, that's unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. All they have to do is say, you know what, if you're going to talk about applying, performing abortions on black babies, then, we're not going to take your money. If they really were not racist about it, then none of them would accept the money.
Wow.
These people are horrible.
Yep.
Monsters.
Yep. So not only are there a lot of their clinics strategically located near minority black-dominated neighborhoods, but it's they're clearly racist.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Hey Antonio, I found an interesting website that does statistics on minorities. I'll post it on the side if you want to read it. But apparently, Hispanics are taking the lead in terms of rising from being minority status.
Race relations.
I mean, he talks about Native Americans, African Americans, Asians, even the Irish.
What's the point behind it? Is it relevant to the abortion issue?
No, it doesn't relate to abortion, really, but the status of the country's population. Just good to know.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm not for abortion at all. Like, I think of it like this: if I was a female, and if one of my parents decided to abort me, if I had a conscience, I wouldn't like the idea. So I just can't picture anybody liking the idea. If you have conscience, and if one of their parents wanted to go, I don't think anybody would like that idea. But lots of people try to make the excuse that racists don't have a conscience. But I just think I just don't think it's moral.
How's it going, brother Tommy Hall?
Hey, good. How you doing, Anthony?
Not too bad, man.
Hello.
You guys hear the echo? That's just me.
I do too.
I hear an echo too.
If you're not talking, you can mute, and that may stop the echo.
What's up, Tommy?
Is this better?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I think I still hear an echo on mine.
Oh, no, I can still hear it.
Anybody else hear the echo?
It's gone, I think.
It typically happens when one or two people are not muted while someone else is talking.
Makes sense.
But anyway, did you hey Tommy, do you know that guy Gary? He's an evolutionist, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know him?
Yeah, you're talking about the Gary, what's his name?
It's like a really,
Yeah, I saw him in the side chat.
yeah. So, have you been watching this hang?
No, actually, I was just muting Philip, see if we could get rid of the echo. But no, I just watched a couple 3 minutes before I joined. So.
Oh yeah, but yeah, you know who he is, but he was trying to say that okay, so I told him that the unborn is scientifically alive, and then he was like, well, that may be true, but it's not the same as living. And then I showed him a dictionary definition, like not that I should have had to, but I did it anyway, and it said, alive, living. And then he was like, well, that's not a medical dictionary. And then I showed him 2 medical dictionaries that said the same thing, alive, living. And then he said, well, you're not reading it right, or you don't really understand it, or it was just dumb. And then I was like, dude, are you trying to insult my intelligence right now? You don't think I understand, what I'm directly reading in front of you? Mm-hmm. And then he was like, well, we're both not medical professionals, so, and I couldn't deal with that crap. That was just dumb, and I just kicked him out the room.
Oh, you're talking about Phony Beetle Maniac.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, I don't like insulting people generally, but liberalism in general, it seems like it makes people, it just turns them really stupid. And like the girl, I'm sorry, not sure who said it before when I was listening before I got on, but she said something along the lines of that they'll use any excuse to make abortion legal or available. And that's true. I mean, it doesn't even matter how stupid the excuse is. They'll pretty much, it's like they'll drop their IQ and just blurt out something completely stupid. And to say that being alive isn't the same as living is ridiculous. I was gonna. Did you hear what Planned Parenthood did this last Mother's Day? They came out with a statement and they said Planned Parenthood is committed to building a world that values, respects, and supports safe and wanted motherhood. So they drew a lot of outrage with that comment. But I was just thinking, look at all the millions of people who've been born and their mothers or fathers, quote unquote, didn't want them, but the mothers went ahead and had them, and look at their beautiful existence in their lives and how productive and how much love they probably brought to their parents. So
yeah.
So just because babies aren't necessarily wanted at the time doesn't necessarily mean anything in regards to if they should be murdered or not.
Exactly.
So, anyway. Yeah, it's frustrating.
I'm typically very patient. I'm typically very patient with people when I'm dealing with nonsense, but I absolutely could not deal with that. Like, you're gonna just have direct facts in front of your face and just tell me that I'm not understanding it, or that none of us are medical professionals, or that's just stupid. All right. I'm not gonna deal with that crap. You get to a point.
I have a...
Yeah, go ahead.
You're cutting out, Haley. Hey,
in motherhood.
You cut out. Well, at least for me, you cut out.
Yeah, I can't hear her.
I can't either.
You might have to reset.
Yeah, just log back in.
Yeah, just come in and out, and it should fix it.
There's Hog Tie.
How you doing, Tommy?
Good. How are you?
I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been?
I've been doing well. Just working, kind of laying low, trying to avoid the spotlight.
So who here has seen the little to-do how to be a pro-choice person here that I made?
Oh, I can screen share it again. It's pretty funny. All right. Let's see. Where did I put it? Hold
How
on.
about now?
I gotta bring it
better.
back up. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Yep. You can read that. I already read it, but
These are my aunt and uncles. Hang on.
I mean, you know, you do have people who try to actually use intelligence, like Hogtie here. He's one of the few actually intelligent pro-choicers I've come across. And
yeah, and I got to say, I must not be smart enough to see the informativeness or usefulness or the comedy in that little list of how to be a pro-choicer. Is there a joke that I'm missing that somehow makes it amusing?
Was it supposed to be amusing?
Well, yeah. What was the purpose of it then? What?
It seems to me that it was. I didn't read it all. This is the first I was reading it, but it seems to be characteristics of arguments that pro-choicers tend to put out there over and over and over again. So I don't know that it was supposed to be humorous.
Okay. Well, let's start with number one then.
Okay.
Is that a pro-choicer?
Okay. Let's put it back up.
Well, you want me to put it back up? I'll put it back up.
Or just
if Antonio, it's your hangout. If it's an acceptable topic to you,
I'll put it back up. Here we go.
I think it's worth. Sometimes it's worth discussion. It's worth discussing the discussion.
Guys.
Yeah.
When I made that, it was when Antonio was debating with this other pro-choice guy who wasn't as intelligent as you, Hogtie, but I heard a lot of those things in there. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Okay, let's talk about number one. No, not all of them. So some of them, but not all of them.
Not all of them.
Okay. Actually, sorry. Oh, is Jackson made it?
Yep.
Okay. It came up as I was coming into the room. I'm not. We don't necessarily need to discuss. Realizing, yeah, sorry, that gives me a bit of a different perspective on the.
All right, but I'll talk about something else. Like, when Gary was in here earlier before you came in here, and he wanted to say that like alive isn't the same as living, and I showed him several definitions to where that was absolutely not where it was absolutely interchangeable. And he's like, give me a different a medical dictionary definition. And I showed him two. And then he was like, well, you're not reading it correctly, or none of us are medical professionals. And then I was like, oh, all right, I'm not going to deal with this nonsense. And then I kicked him out the room.
Yeah, well, not sure how to judge your choice to kick somebody. We all have our line and where we kick somebody. I don't like the arguments on either side that hinge on. How do I say this? We have to be clear in our definitions how we use the words. But when the argument hinges on, interpreting a word a particular way, like in this particular instance, it's there's no doubt that those are living, that the cells that form. Hey, get out of here, cat. The cells that form a fetus, or even going back a stage to the blastocyst, to the zygote, like those are living cells.
That's what I tried to tell him. Yeah. I tried to tell him that, and he disagreed.
That doesn't win the argument either way. It's a classification, but we don't have a rule that says we never kill living cells, and we also don't have a rule that says when something is not classified as living, then it's okay to damage or destroy it, right? We have plenty of things you can think of that are not alive, and yet it is not morally acceptable to damage or destroy them.
Well, I think it's obvious that abortion is killing. That was the whole point. He was trying to say that although the unborn is scientifically alive, but it's not living, so you're not killing it to abort it out in a woman's body. I think it's pretty obvious that abortion it's killing, period. You can't get around that.
even if the organism doesn't have a heartbeat yet, it's eventually going to come alive, and you're just robbing the.
Well, it doesn't come alive; it's alive.
Period. To come alive,
Well, there are many things that we consider alive that don't have heartbeats and will never have heartbeats. And when they no longer go through their biological functions, then that's considered killing them. Like if you go and if you spray vinegar on a countertop, there are many critters on there that you would consider alive, and then you spray vinegar on and wipe it down. Then that would be killing bacteria. That's
right.
Killing.
Right.
So that's why I'm not at all satisfied by arguments that say, well, when we do perform an abortion, well, you're not really killing the fetus because it's not really alive. Well, come on. I mean, we would say that bacteria on the countertop are alive and we're killing them when we wipe them down. Like it's somehow, classifying it as not killing for a technical reason, I don't think really advances the argument at all.
It really doesn't.
And that's all I'm saying is, like, let's just approach this from an honest perspective. And when you deny basics like that, and you just try to just argue at the point to where it's completely obvious what the inference is, no, I'm not going to deal with you. I don't have time for it.
So are you pro-choice, Hogtie?
For simplicity, I'm going to say yes, but my position's a little more textured than that. Okay.
So what is your argument? Because that is an argument that's so prevalent among pro-choicers, is that, well, it's just tissue, when it's a certain size or age. So if you're going to say that this tissue, quote unquote, is alive, then what is your argument for pro-choice?
Well, I have to say first what it's not, because there are a lot of actually Antonio had a hangout one time. I think it was called Bad Pro-Abortion Arguments or Bad Pro-Choice Arguments or something, and I'd come in with a few myself. I don't think there's any value in playing word games about what we mean about alive or living. Or what's the other one? Murder is another one where people will argue. Like in my position is that the fetus or done at an earlier stage chemically, the blastocyte or the zygote is alive. It is living. The actions that are taking are intentional acts to kill the living thing. It is not murder. An abortion at any stage is not murder, because murder is a legal term. And when and what was the other thing? Is it a human? Yes, it's a human. Is it a person? No, it's not a person. These are arguments that I think don't really advance the cause for either side, because there are many human things that we can think of circumstances where it's appropriate to kill them, and there are many non-human things that we can think of circumstances where it's not appropriate to kill them. These are just all sort of big distractors that are big definitional games. Okay, so my actual position, and I can't really give you an argument for it unless you understand what my actual position is. Like I say, it's a little more subtle. It is not. I don't think it's at all fair to talk about anti-abortion versus pro-abortion. I'm as anti-abortion as they come, in the sense that I think every civilized society should permit but not perform abortions. And what that means is that it should be a medical service that is available when needed, but everybody should have their oar in the water, working as hard as they can to get the number of abortions performed down to zero. A successful society is one that does not perform abortions, not because abortions are prohibited, but because they understand the causes behind high abortion rates, and they work to address those problems. Now, I appreciate that doesn't justify my position. That is simply what my position is. And just, I might need to pause for clarifications, because I do see mics opening here, like Tommy wants to.
For a pro-choice position, I think that's probably as good as it's going to get. But so I'd like to ask you, though, why do you think that, and I agree, I would think any pro-choicer who is honest and truthful with their position, because most pro-choicers will come on here and say that they're not actually for abortion, but they're personally against the act, but they want to make it legal for others. But why is it that that it seems like the pro-choice movement in general across the nation, you don't see them out there actively fighting or trying to get people to adopt their babies out. You know, they're not out there raising awareness about, no, you don't actually have to have sex if you're not married. You know, they're not out there pushing the that agenda, or that it's okay to wait till you're married. But instead, they're just out there basically allowing abortions to happen by the millions, year after year, decade after decade.
Well, Tommy, as is your habit, you robbed me of the opportunity to provide justification for my position by asking me a completely irrelevant question that is also founded on complete misinformation about reality. So do you want me to address your question, either to correct your misinformation and give you an answer to that, or do you want me to...
Well, if you notice at the very beginning of my statement, I acknowledged your position, and I said for a pro-choice position, I think that's one of the more honorable descriptions that I've heard. I still wouldn't agree.
Because now what you just launched into, though, was this whole thing about, well, why is it that pro-choice people are talking about X and they're not talking about A, B, C, D, and E? Okay, and you're mistaken about that. Many of the same advocates that would present arguments in favor of abortion access, that is, that is legal and that people can go for abortions, are the same people who are advocates for sensible sex education, who are advocates for having workable, functional adoption systems. I mean, these are the same people who see all these things as being socially positive and work towards those things. So your claim that there are people out there who are like abortion, 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 and no, I don't want to hear about adoption. I don't want to hear about abstinence. I don't want to hear about responsible sexual conduct. I just want more and more and more abortions. You're just like, I don't know. Well, I don't know where you get that impression. You're a Conservapedia reader, so I kind of know. No. In all seriousness, let me make that point. In all seriousness, it is lore amongst the sort of right-wing anti-choice people to say, well, our enemies, our opponents, our intellectual opponents, are people who want to kill babies, who want to see more abortions, and couldn't bother themselves to talk about sexual responsibility or good sexual health habits, or about having an effective, safe adoption system.
Let me just follow that up. So I guess my overriding point was, what you said sounded good, I guess, for a pro-choice position, but it seemed like that so many people, they sound good with their answers, but when it comes to the practice, the pro-choice community generally does not practice what they preach. In other words, they don't go out and preach abstinence. They certainly don't go out, and I'm not going to say never, but they don't seem to be on the adoption bandwagon. Maybe
you're wrong.
Maybe I could be wrong.
Can I deal with somebody else's question that's based on actual fact?
Hang on just a second.
No, because what you're saying is...
No, I wasn't actually...
Well, your words sound nice, hog-tied.
I wasn't quite done yet.
Who cares? Go ahead. Well, because you're spinning just misinformation. You're going to ask me to respond to misinformation about a position that I don't hold, and I don't even know people that hold the position you're espousing. And also, the reason why I would dare to interrupt you is because you started by saying, well, your words sound nice, but this is the reality of the situation. You're telling me that I am dishonest in my statement of my position, that other people who express the position that I express are simply dishonest. So when I tell you, look, these are people, myself included, you want to know my position, that's all I'm really here to express, support things like good sexual health education, having a safe, effective adoption system.
That was not on my list.
These are all things that I support, and people that I know, the like-minded people, these are all things they support. And your response was to say, yeah, well, that sounds nice, but I personally believe that that's not true, that you guys are all...
I'm just looking at it. If you look out into the community and out into our world, functionally, that position that you're holding, that you're kind of propping up, doesn't actually exist. I mean, it sounds great, and I'm glad you have that position. It sounds like, for a pro-choice, a reasonable position to want to lower the number of abortions, but functionally, that's not what actually happens in society. When we have a pro-choice society, what happens is we just funnel, especially black people, through the gauntlet, by the millions. And there is none of this pushing adoption onto the black community, for example. There's just abortion, abortion, abortion. Have as much sex as you want. Doesn't matter if you're married. Doesn't matter if you have single mothers out there. Where's the Planned Parenthood out there trying to educate people on some of the some of the dangers, some of the negativity of having sex outside of marriage to begin with? So they're not going to do it. They're not going to do anything.
You know what it is? You know what it is? Go to Google, search for Planned Parenthood. Whatever address comes up, that's where it is. You asked me, where's the Planned Parenthood that talks about, again, you're talking about good sexual health education. The answer is
that's not what I asked.
Listen, each and every one. No, about sexual responsibility, not having sex outside of marriage.
Abstinence, yeah.
Well, no, you didn't say abstinence on that occasion. You said why aren't people educating abstinence before? Each and every Planned Parenthood outlet teaches the value, the benefits of abstinence. They also teach the benefits of other positive, effective sexual health techniques. Each and every one. Now, if I were to ask you, hey Tommy, where's the Planned Parenthood that does abortion? If you were to go onto Google and find the closest Planned Parenthood to where you live, that Planned Parenthood may or may not perform abortions. Right? It depends what state you're in. It depends which one you go to. They might have to refer you to a different Planned Parenthood, or you might even live in a state like Louisiana where Planned Parenthood doesn't even perform abortions. So if you ask me, where's the Planned Parenthood that does abortions? Your closest one may or may not do it. Where's the Planned Parenthood that teaches the values of abstinence, the values of sexual integrity, sexual fidelity within a marriage? The answer is each and every one of them.
Their main thing is hold on, man. Their main thing is sex education, not abstinence. Yeah. Let's be honest, dude.
Abstinence is part. And I'm being honest. Abstinence is part. Abstinence education is part of sex education.
They may have that buried on a website somewhere, Hogtie, but they don't go out and make commercials. They don't go out and actually, bring people in or have like some sort of a counseling session with girls, or they don't have a basic teaching mechanism to help the public realize and accept and acknowledge that it is okay to wait till marriage. So
they do.
Yes, I think what you're referring to. What you're referring to is something buried in somewhere on a website or some little pamphlet that they might hand out.
I'm open to taking questions from somebody who can ask a question that's actually based on fact. No, because Tommy, you've got nothing here. You've got your right-wing nutter.
Okay, Hogtie. No. Okay, here we go, Hogtie.
You got your right.
I've got a little challenge for you.
All right.
Show me a TV commercial, a YouTube video, or anything from Planned Parenthood.
Not interested in your goalpost.
I don't care what you're interested in. I'm interested in the truth. Show me a Planned Parenthood YouTube video, TV commercial, or anything that shows that they have meetings or anything else that would promote abstinence or promote, waiting till marriage, especially within the black community.
You're asking for something you're not desiring. What you're asking for, what you're desiring for me to show you, and I know I can go and I can show. We can screen. Shut up. We can screen share. We can screen share their policies on what they tell people as part of good sexual health. And then you're going to say, well, show me the one that says abstinence only. You want abstinence only education, right? And you think that Planned Parenthood falls short because they tell people abstinence is healthy, but if you're going to do it, there are condoms. Condoms aren't perfect, so if you're going to do that, you should also look into these foams and dams and everything else and all the other stuff they tell people. You don't want that message. You want abstinence only. Wait until you're married. When you're married, do it under these conditions. And if that's what you're asking for, then no Planned Parenthood doesn't do that. And you want to know the reason why they don't do it? Because it's a goofy.
No, it's not. I can tell you why.
No, because
I have 3 kids. I have three daughters, and I teach them all. It's not goofy.
Message that increases the abortion rate.
No, because when you say that you should be that abstinence should be real, that you should actually engage in abstinence, but if you don't, then you should use a condom. Then that's basically a free pass. Because think about if I did that to my daughters. If I said, okay, now you guys just don't have sex before marriage, but if you do, go ahead and use a condom. That's just like that's a free pass, is it not? So if that's what they're doing, then that is not an abstinence-only platform.
No, well, that's right. It's not an abstinence-only platform. And if you want to, this is why I was saying before, but there are people out there, and you're not one of them. There are people out there who work towards decreasing the abortion rate. Anybody out there who says that what we need to teach our children and our teenagers is abstinence only, those people are the ones contributing to an increased abortion rate. And that's a reality that you need to come to grips with. And this is why I say there are people who are working to reduce the overall abortion rate. They see abortion as not good for patients, not good for society overall, and it ought to be reduced. So there you go. Abstinence only doesn't work. Now,
so where are the heroes? Where are the heroes, Hogtie, that will actually stand up and say the right thing, have actually a moral compass, and say, yes, it is actually morally correct. It is safer to be to be abstinence only. And just like, I'm not sure who put that up there.
Why would you say that when it's not true?
Hang on, Hogtie.
Why would you say it when it's not true?
What do you mean?
When you actually look, when you actually engage in the act of abstinence, it works every time it's actually done, 100%.
Sure.
Your way has contributed to all kinds of STDs, Hogtie, and AIDS, and spreading all kinds of.
Yeah, no.
Notice what Antonio just put up. He that little thing that flashed up.
Yeah,
I think.
They say abstinence only doesn't work. Yeah.
Right. They say abstinence only doesn't work. So if they're going to be saying that over and over and over, then that sort of contradicts what your position or what you just said a second ago, right?
Not at all. It's exactly. What are you talking about? That's exactly what my position is. You were asking before for proof that they endorse abstinence as an approach towards good sexual health. I said we can find tons of that proof, but no. But I already predicted. I said, but if we can go ahead and look for evidence that they use abstinence as part of their education on good sexual health. But Tommy, knowing what you're going to do next, when I show you that, you're going to say, no. But I want to see proof that they teach abstinence only. And I immediately said, and they don't do that. And you went, checkmate, like that was somehow an intellectually honest thing to say. They do not teach abstinence only because abstinence-only programs are ineffective. And they're not effective. They have an effect, and that is to increase the frequencies, the spread of STDs and abortion uptake. This is well established. So when you say where are the heroes, I would not define a hero as somebody who goes out with a dangerous health policy message. So, for example, if it's your personal belief, Tommy, that seatbelts don't save lives, that seatbelts actually make passengers in vehicles in a more dangerous, more likely to be crippled and killed situation. And you went out there and said, well, there's no one out there telling the truth about seatbelts. And I'm going to be the hero that's going to preach that don't wear seatbelts when you're in a vehicle. It's the most dangerous, dumbest thing you can do. Are you a hero for spreading that message? No, because the data show that is not the message that is helpful. If our goal here is to have people happy and healthy and not getting injured in car accidents, then what we should be telling people is wear your seatbelt. The same reason why I should be telling people who smoke, don't smoke. It is good evidence that smoking is bad for you. If you went out and told people that smoking was actually good for your health, it doesn't make you a hero.
Okay, well, you've obviously missed the issue, because if we had society, including parents, including people like you, Hogtie, teaching their kids, and teachers, and school administrators, and government officials, and people on commercials, and people in general in society, telling youngsters that it is okay to wait till you're married. I think that would be heroic. Instead, what we have are a bunch of. No, we don't. Who?
Yeah, we do.
Who?
We have them all over the place.
Besides your basic evangelical Christians, who?
Yeah.
No,
it's real easy.
So here's my point. Okay, go ahead. No, here's my point. If that would be heroic, you would be a hero if you told your kids that. And so I think all parents would be a hero if they told their kids that. Miley Cyrus, no, she's not going to, but she would be a hero if she stood up and said, yeah, it is okay to wait till your marriage. But there's so few heroes, and here we have Planned Parenthood, who's knows all about the negative ramifications of having sex when you're not married, and all these dead babies that they're responsible for. They know darn well how many millions of lives have been destroyed, basically, both the offspring and the mothers. They should be preaching that. They should be telling girls, and guys, knock it off. I mean, not everybody's going to pay attention, and people are going to do it anyway. But instead, we just have this drumbeat of sex. I mean, it's everywhere. Sex. Planned Parenthood promotes it. you know,
let us
you're
let us
evidently.
Can I just go ahead, Anna?
A lot of pro-choice people do teach that abstinence is unrealistic.
Yep.
Right? Let's not pretend otherwise.
That's not the message. No.
In my personal experience with pro-choicers, you know, in the real world and online, most of them say that abstinence is unrealistic. And
No, I got it. No, that's not true. And you might fairly accuse me of drawing what might be a semantic distinction, but this one I think is important, Antonio. It is not the case that people who are supporters of good sexual health education, they're not saying that abstinence is a bad idea.
I said unrealistic, not bad idea.
I know. Let me make one. Or any combination of those words that they're saying that abstinence is a bad idea or abstinence is unrealistic. You shouldn't even bother trying to incorporate abstinence in your life. I think this is what you meant, but I want to make it clear because sometimes we do get lost in the words and we accidentally misrepresent the other person's position. What they're saying is abstinence-only education is ineffective, or I shouldn't even say ineffective because it has observed effects, and that is increased STDs, increased abortion uptake. Just one sec. There you go, Tommy.
30 years old.
Tommy, if you're going to snort in your microphone, can you just tilt the microphone away from your head? Okay.
30 years old, and I'm not afraid to admit this on the air. 30 years old, still a virgin, abstinence only. Come on.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. No. See, this is the distinction. This is why I wanted to make that clarification, because it's not about an individual making choices for abstinence. I think that people that many people make the decision for abstinence, and it can be, that doesn't mean that you don't ever do it. Sorry, that's literally what abstinence means. Sorry, I don't mean ever. What it can mean that you can be in a sexual relationship. Like, for example, I know people that are divorced that now practice abstinence. So it doesn't have to mean that you're a virgin, right? It just means that you said, I was in a set of circumstances where sex was right for me. Now I'm not in those circumstances anymore. So now for a period I'm going to engage in abstinence.
I didn't say abstinence equate to virginity. That's not what I said.
I know. I'm just clarifying so there's no confusion on that. What all the messages, go back to the point about abstinence-only education. It's not to say that abstinence is unrealistic. There are many successful examples of people who apply abstinence, either have their whole life or had been in sexual relationships and now engage in a period of abstinence. That's a very successful strategy. And of course, in terms of the health outcomes, it's a super safe way to live your life. When they say that abstinence is unrealistic, to use your words, meaning that abstinence-only education applied to a population is an unsuccessful strategy.
Prove that.
Seriously, Tommy?
Yeah, seriously, prove that. What is your scientific evidence of that?
Okay, you can blurt out things like that, like, well,
I'm asking your assertion.
Okay, sorry. Okay, first off, is it your claim that you've never been presented with statistics that show?
I'm asking you to back up your assertion.
Hold on, I can do that. But I want you to track what you've done in this conversation, or what you have done to this conversation. I had come in, I had some good questions. People asked good questions about my justification for my position. I gave my position very clearly. And then I paused to see if there were any questions about my position, so then I could go ahead and justify it. You then wanted to have a discussion about, why don't they do this for abortion or for adoption? And then now we're going to have a discussion about STDs and abstinence.
Yeah, I want you to back up your position.
I can do that. Okay, I can do that. But here's what it's going to take. It's going to mean that now I'm going to have to stop talking about the thing that we were talking about 2 minutes ago.
You just said that the abstinence only was unsuccessful. So
because here's why. I'm going to play this card. Abstinent. No, well, I said it was ineffective, and then I keep correcting myself. It is not.
What's your definition of effective?
Effective means successful towards meeting its goals. In this case, Tommy. In this case,
you've been blabbering. You've been blabbering.
You're asking me questions.
I'm going to chime in on this too.
Hold on, brother Tommy. Let him finish his explanation. Go ahead, man.
What it means is successful towards its goals. In this case, I would say when it comes to health policy, not personal choices, but when it comes to a society's health policy, what you want to see for your society is good sexual health, low STDs, low rapes, and low abortions, right? And when you look at a program, so like we're gonna put in this program for high schools, or we're gonna put in this program for junior high schools, or we're gonna put in this program for college kids. What effects do these things have? And if it turns out they have the effect of increasing STDs, you go, oops, that would not be a successful program.
So
Now,
everybody-
some other people have some to chime in on some things. Now, what I'm going to do, and I want to be really, really clear, so people watching this can see what's happened here. I've been asked for justification, for explanation of my position regarding pro-choice, and to provide some justification for it. Tommy then wanted to talk about adoption. Tommy then wanted to talk about Planned Parenthood policies. Tommy then wanted to talk about STDs. Tommy then wanted to talk about abstinence. Tommy now wants me to prove a claim that I've repeated, a very well-established claim that abstinence-only sex education programs are not effective in reducing STD. They, in fact, have the opposite effect.
I'm asking for your evidence.
To do so, to do so, what I have to do is now mute my microphone and go to another window and do a Google search and go find some articles and do all this other stuff. But before I do that, because I know some other people want to talk, Tommy and I have been kind of taking up the mic time.
No,
but before I step away, no, you've controlled the conversation 100%.
Oh, please.
Tommy, you have controlled the
and watch the
conversation
tape.
100%. I've been here because, again, I was here to talk about justification for a position that other people don't necessarily hold in this room. I had some polite questions about that. You, Tommy, then wanted to talk about something else and something else and something else and something else, and now you're going to say, well, show me proof for something that is so well established. You cannot claim to have never seen this.
The claim is made over and over and over.
Antonio, okay, well then
There's no justification for it.
It's a totally fair thing, but Antonio, do you acknowledge that that's what's happened in the room so far? That initially I was asked questions about my position and to justify it, and Tommy has diverted it through adoption and Planned Parenthood policy and I don't know what else. I counted 3 or 4 different things.
I told you it was an honorable position when I first started out. So what is there? What do you want me to say about it?
Well, isn't hold on? Isn't that relevant to this discussion? The whole thing about you said that abstinence education or abstinence only educations are like ineffective. Isn't that relevant to this discussion?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, if about abortion, he wants me to go look up stats on abstinence-only education and its effect on STDs. Okay, and I can do that. I can do that because it actually has a measurable.
Yeah, I don't think he was. I think there was a bit of miscommunication between the both of you, and I don't really think he was intending to just sort of throw you a million different places. I don't really think that was the intention.
Well, it is. It's what he does, and this is why. Again, if it sounds like I'm getting a little irritated with him, the reason is because this is what he does when he comes into a room for this kind of a conversation. Is that he starts asking question after question after question after question, and when he runs out of questions, he starts saying, "Well, show me your evidence of that. Show me your evidence of that." Okay, well, fine. I'm gonna mute my mic now. Unless somebody else, give other people a chance to talk on these issues. But again, I just want to make it clear that I was asked about my position and then never given an opportunity to discuss the position or provide justification because I'm going to cater to Tommy's request, which I think, by the way, which I do think is a reasonable request. I think if somebody's going to say that a particular program has an effect or doesn't have an effect, they should be prepared to provide that information. But I just want to be clear about this too, that when you do it in a Google Hangout, especially for something that's so well established like this. Like I had made the claim that smoking is bad for your health. Like where's somebody demanding that I prove that smoking is bad for your health and sending me on a 15-minute Google search to find 4 peer-reviewed articles of the obvious, But anyway, I'll do so.
No, it's not the same at all. There's lots and lots and lots of evidence that smoking is bad for you. I'm asking for your evidence to back up your claim that abstinence only doesn't work. How about the Israelites?
Okay, while I do that, I want to ask you one question. I want to ask you one question. Okay,
how much
I want to ask you one question.
How much
while you've got me on
STDs
the
do you think
search.
Hang on, Hogtie. You've been going on for 10 minutes. How many STDs do you think were in the Israelite community back, in Bible
possibly,
times? How many? How
could I possibly know that?
Shut up, for
how
God's
is
sakes.
it possibly relevant to what we're talking about?
You are seriously obnoxious.
All right, hold on. Do you have something to say, Tifa? Go ahead.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that information too, because I've seen it said multiple times, and I have yet to see any proof that abstinence only or abstinence education period leads to is ineffective. You know, because when they talk about abstinence education, they talk about abstinence education based on either STDs or teen pregnancy or what have you. They don't do them all together at one. You know, so I like
Sorry, can I chime in real quick on this thing? 'Cause I want to sort of pull the room on something. First off, am I doing the search for what the STD rates were amongst the ancient Hebrews?
Well,
Is that what Tommy wants to know now? Okay, I would hope. Okay, but let me ask you this, because Tika, you just said something I thought was really interesting. You've said you've heard this claim before, that abstinence-only education actually has these what do you call it, paradoxical effects.
Yeah, when I was debating another person.
Okay, so you've heard it before. Have other people heard this claim before?
Well, let me throw something in here that might shed some light on this. I've actually, real quick, I've actually heard like this claim is backed up that abstinence only doesn't work by. They will do something like look at the Bible Belt, for example. They'll look at a particular reason, and then they'll say, well, we can assume by logical inference that this is a very religious region, and they're probably teaching abstinence only, but you have a whole lot of teen pregnancies happening amongst the Bible Belt, so what they're saying doesn't work.
Yes, that I agree with, because when you have children that are brought up in a very closed society, a lot of times when they do get out of that closed society, they go crazy. So that it has been proven that when it comes to premarital sex, that abstinence-only education has not worked to get rid of premarital sex or children being promiscuous when they become of the age of, exploring their bodies or what have you. But I have yet to see a pro-abort show proof that abstinence-only education or abstinence education period is ineffective when it comes to abortion, strictly abortion.
Yeah.
Not premarital sex, not STDs, not being promiscuous, strictly abortion.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you've that's a good point in terms of focusing it on the abortion thing. Guttmacher's actually got a good one here. Guttmacher Institute. Again, it's very difficult because that's partly why Tommy does it. I want to say too that here's number 4. I appreciate that. Especially for people who've seen me have interactions in this room before, that I generally don't get irritated with people. I get very irritated with Tommy for this particular behavior of asking for evidence. Tommy has never once, anytime I've given him an article for something, and I'm one of at least 8 people that I can think of off the top of my head, where Tommy has asked, show me a paper, and he's never once even looked at those papers. So I'm going to admit, and I think this is unfair to other people in the room.
That's a lie. Why don't you do it for the lurker? Do it for the lurkers, Hogtie. Everybody here is waiting for your evidence. Don't do it for me. Do it for them.
Okay, Tommy, how long should they wait for my evidence?
I don't know. That's up to them, I suppose.
Hold on. What's a reasonable period of time, Tommy, for me to go and collect that evidence?
Oh, geez.
I don't know.
Tika, how long do you think it should take me?
Listen, I've never seen the evidence. I can wait until tomorrow. It doesn't matter to me. If someone has evidence strictly from a study done with multiple people with abstinence and abortion, I'd love to see it.
Okay, so here's what I find funny about this.
Problem.
Do you see? Okay, what is the last comment that I typed into the side chat? You see how it starts with a number 4?
What's your name?
What it says me. It's a Hogtie, but where it says me? Okay.
Guttmacher.
Yeah, from the Guttmacher Institute, and I even said out loud Guttmacher Institute, and it says starts with number 4. Do you know why there's a number 4 in front of it?
Yeah, I got it. Let me go.
Because above that there's a comment from me that says number 3. And above that, there's a comment from me that says number 2. And above that, there's a comment from me that I had not put a number 1. But I think we can see the rhythm here. So I already posted 4 sources, and I want to be clear too. What I did not do, I did not search for 4 articles that talk about the effectiveness of abstinence-only education, and then find like 8 of them, and then pick the 4 that make my point. I chose those 4 based on these criteria. The Stanger Hall and Dave, Hall. It's Catherine Stanger Hall and David Hall article is sort of a recognized summary of these things throughout the U.S., not just in the Bible Belt. Guttmacher Institute has a lot of good stuff that's poll-based and health records-based. So these are simply the best sources. This other one from SICUS, I had not seen it. It's a fact sheet that says what the research says. So I want to make it clear, I didn't choose these based on which of them meet my position. It's which of these speak to the issue that we're discussing here. And if it turns out that one of them says that one of them runs against the other three, well, then we'll have to sit down and read them and figure them out. But the point is, I've never seen an article that says that abstinence-only education applied to a population is actually beneficial in the ways that we're talking about here. Second, I have never once seen Tommy Hall read an article that somebody has shown to him.
Now the Guttmacher one.
Are you in my office, Hogtie? Do you see everything that I read?
No, because we've asked you questions. We've asked you questions about something that we've sent to you, and
such as what? Give me an example. Give me an example.
Okay, well, because it's going to derail us from here. But
no.
Let's just
okay. Since you started, since you said it,
okay, that's fine. It's a side issue.
Give me an example.
What's her name with the blood in the T-Rex bones? How to forget her name now? You know her name.
Mary Schweitzer.
Mary Schweitzer. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about it?
Well, 2 years ago, I said, here, read this article. A year and a half ago, I said, here, read this article. About 2 months ago.
I watched Jade's video when they went through Mary Schweitzer's paper.
Okay, but the paper that I've given you to read, and you're now saying, give me one example of you having given me a paper and I've not read it. There's one example that's happened 3 times.
I just told you. I watched Jade's video where they went through Mary Schweitzer's paper, so I did read that paper.
You did not read
in essence.
You did not read the paper. It doesn't matter. Can we not derail? Yeah, I do know, because I've asked you questions about it. I've asked you questions about it. You've never looked at it.
Okay,
I don't care to argue about it here. I mean, it's unfair to other people in the room. It's unfair to other people in the room for you to do that. Can we stick about the papers that are here?
All right.
Let me chime in.
Go ahead, Tika.
All right, I looked at the articles. Now, the articles are exactly the articles that I've seen. I even have articles not from your sources, Hogtie, but my own that say exactly what yours say. You know, abstinence-only education does really nothing when it comes to teen pregnancy, HIV, unprotected sex, and STDs. So that's true. They've actually done studies on those. What I am looking for is one that did a study on abortion. That says, okay, if someone receives abstinence-only education, it is ineffective in stopping someone from committing an abortion later on in life. Because it doesn't make any sense, because you can't, there is no study with that. So you can talk about it when it comes to STDs, which have nothing to do with abortion. You can talk about it when it comes to, premarital sex or being promiscuous. But when it comes to the decisions being made for a man or a woman to have abortion, very little plays in whether they had abstinence-only education.
I know, but Tommy had asked specifically about STDs. Those ones I gave you included other information about pregnancy rates.
Yes,
it might be an unwarranted assumption to say that abortion rates follow
two different things.
Sorry, I don't mean unwanted pregnancy. Unplanned, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, those are two different things, though, because unplanned pregnancies, the pregnancy rate and the unplanned pregnancy rate and the abortion rate are two different things, because 3 different things. Because you can have an unplanned pregnancy rate, a pregnancy rate, and an abortion rate that have absolutely positively nothing to do with each other, because it depends on whether either of those end, either that unplanned pregnancy or that pregnancy rate, which one of those ended in abortion.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think that you don't want to use, I think intuitively the unplanned pregnancy rate is a good sort of leader for the abortion rate, but I think that's too. I'd be uncomfortable making that as an assumption that it could be a proxy. It barely qualifies as a working assumption. So I'm agreeing with you 100% there.
We would literally have to take all 3 of those sources and tie them together on our own and try and do the data by ourselves and calculate stuff, and that would take a lot longer than we have right here. Because I don't think any study's been done.
Yeah. By the way, I think that's a great question. Let me give me another couple of minutes here. I will look for some that are sort of the way I addressed Tommy's concern about the STDs. I'll look for some not that address because another one is teen pregnancy. That there's sort of this assumption that the teen pregnancy rate is correlated with abortion, and I don't know that that's the case. And I think that's a dangerous, unwarranted assumption. So so just like I addressed Tommy's question about the STDs, why don't you give me a couple of minutes and I'll see what I can find on the. Sorry, yours was specifically was abortion uptake. You mean actual performed abortions? Okay.
Real quick, as far as teens, when it comes to look at the Guttmacher study, who has the highest rate? Is it teenagers or is it the older women, the older married women who already have one child? Because what we want to do is we want to look at who has the highest rates of abortion, and if it's not teenagers and it's actually grown women, then abstinence-only education isn't a factor, because these are grown women who are not living in their parents' houses, or maybe they are. But if it's teenagers, then the abstinence-only education is a factor. If teenagers have the highest rates of abortion, then yeah, that's a factor. But if it's grown women, maybe in their 30s or 25 to 35, then I don't think that the abstinence-only education is the factor. I think we have to look at something different. We have to tie that together.
I'm sorry. A real quick question for you, Tika. What's your understanding of I guess who's getting the abortions?
Hold on, I have to give me 1 second. Let me pull up the Guttmacher.
Okay.
I mean, what exactly is abstinence only? Is it like literally not informing you about anything else at all? Is that
no. Well, it's different things for some people. Like with me growing up, because I grew up in a very strictly religious household, there was no talk. I was raised by my grandparents, so there was no talk about sex. Thinking about sex was a sin. Everything's a sin. So you have that type of formal, strictly religious household where you really don't know about sex unless you go to school and somebody's talking about it, and you're basically kept closed off from the world. So you have that type, and then you have the abstinence-only education where I raise my children, where I tell them, respect your bodies. Your virginity is yours. It's a gift that you give up as a choice, but I still let them know what goes on in the world. They need to know about their bodies, so they're not shied away from it. So you have two different types. You have the strictly religious, which keeps the kids' eyes shut from the outside world, and then you have the one that tells them, okay, you know what, no sex before marriage. But you still make them aware of their bodies and what sex is, and tell them everything about sex.
Yeah, my parents were the latter.
Yeah, okay.
And
real quick on
go ahead.
Okay,
man.
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's cool. You haven't spoken yet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think a point that Tommy was getting at a little earlier. I mean, if you look at Planned Parenthood, they're a business. I mean, them saying anything about abstinence and actually having commercials and actually pushing forward this abstinence idea, I don't see how they would help their business in any sense. I mean, they're big on STDs, abortions, birth control. All these revolve around not being abstinent. So I don't see any sense why they would push abstinence other than just to put it on the back of their pamphlet just as a PR type thing. So I think...
can go ahead and finish your question. I can address that.
That's it. Go ahead.
There's kind of a view here that it's like, would McDonald's ever push a vegan diet? Would McDonald's ever get actively involved in telling people you should go totally vegan? Which, number one, means don't ever eat at McDonald's. Don't even eat the salad at McDonald's, because that's not vegan. Why would McDonald's ever do that? Because McDonald's makes their money off of volume. The more people in and out the doors, that's how they make their money. Planned Parenthood doesn't work that way. In general, any clinic or clinician that provides medical services as weird as it sounds, they don't make their money on the head count, especially one that requires a lot of additional outside funding. So there are some scheduled medical procedures, and what I mean by scheduled, I don't mean to be performed at a particular time. It means that when you've got sets of medical procedures and you put them together onto a list, you usually call that list, a Schedule 4 or something. So we often refer to schedules of medical procedures, and so that you can sort of group them for different things. So of scheduled medical procedures, there are some that are actually profit generating. So, for example, wart removal takes less of a physician's time and less administrative overhead time than what they charge for doing it. Also, nobody ever sues their doctor over wart removal, so you can do a heck of a lot of wart removal with very little concern that at the end of the day you're going to lose money because you're going to do 1,000 of them, and then someone's going to sue you for all the money that you made on the first 999. Obstetrics and gynecology contain a whole bunch of scheduled services that are really not good money makers because of the high liability exposure. When it comes to abortion, it varies from state to state, but I think the fee that they charge is between $400 and $500 for an abortion. But when you add up the fees that go into that, they're not collecting enough money from the patients. Every abortion they perform is money that they've taken from their donation. The way the Planned Parenthood survives is based on government funding and on donations. And every time they do an abortion, they are taking some of their donation money and spending it. They're losing it, right? Each abortion is a money loser, is what I'm trying to say. And so there actually isn't an incentive to perform abortions.
Yes, there is.
Directly towards the abstinence thing, which is the thing that I brought up, and I was speaking. I slightly get your point, but I just pulled up, which is basically what the heart of this is getting at, like the distribution of their income. Where does it come from? STI and STD testing, 38%. Contraceptive, 33.5%. So right there we have almost 80%, almost 70% coming from both of those, which would be antithetical to a abstinence message. So you have 70% of their income coming purely from non-abstinence. That's a pretty big chunk, right?
I got the information, Hogtie.
What's that?
I got the information.
Okay, yeah, I just thought I would bring that up. I'll shut up now.
No, don't. Your participation is insightful and helpful.
Yeah, every bit. I'm sorry. Were you finished? Go ahead.
No, I mean that's all. So basically, 70% comes from things that are the direct opposite of being abstinent. So yeah. I mean, just from a business standpoint, it would be suicide to push for abstinence. I mean, they're not some, charity. I mean, they make money. So I just think that. I think Tommy's general point that the only reason they would put abstinence on the back of a pamphlet is just for PR, and they're not really wanting to push that in any way.
That's like the FDA pushing herbs.
Exactly, not in any major capacity anyway. They're in no sense going to promote abstinence in any major capacity, as if it'll be better to promote just having not to deal with it in the first place than to take the risk with contraception, to where that's risk you'll have to deal with, period.
Yeah, I don't even know, honestly, to say stuff like this about what the financial incentive is at Planned Parenthood, or what the financial incentive is for the physicians who are involved in the service delivery, and to come up with that sort of a motivation-based model leaves me in a position where it's almost like talking to a flat earther who is telling me why NASA faked the moon landing, where I go, well, okay, I guess if you believe that that's the way people work, I don't know how to argue against it. I'm
saying, like, just from an economic standpoint, I mean, whenever any business does these type of calculations, like what's our best way of marketing, how can we bring more business in, blah blah blah. You have 70% coming from, let me pull it up. 70% coming from STD testing, which is directly due from sex, and the other one is going to be contraceptive, 33.5. So between the two, about a little over 70. So I'm saying, just from a marketing standpoint, it would be suicide to really push.
Well, I know you're repeating the point. I'm just saying I think you're missing.
How does that have to do with the flat Earth and thinking NASA's lying?
Because you're attributing a whole bunch of motivations to people when you don't understand what their actual motivations are and how they do the job. And I apologize. My family had just come back in, and actually there's company. I totally forgot that we had company coming over today, so I'm going to have to step out kind of abruptly. But just to close the thread on that, that's why I'm saying that I don't even know how to address it when you tell me that you think this is how these people would think and how they do this. I don't think you know how the clinics are funded, how doctors are paid, and what makes them tick in terms of when they decide what kind of information they're going to give their patients. But I also don't know how to educate you differently about that. And I apologize, I do have to leave because I totally forgotten we have company.
Well, we can talk about that another time. Thanks for coming in, Hawkeye. As always, it's a pleasure, man.
Okay, we'll see you guys.
I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with me being a conspiracy theorist. It's
not.
economics and marketing.
It isn't.
I mean, just look at numbers. That's all you have to do. If they have any sense, it makes no sense to push for abstinence. You have to look at it that way. 70% of their income comes from non-abstinence. I mean, it's market.
And that 3%, abortion services, it's a total lie. It's nonsense, because basically what they do is they try to count things like handing out like a condom or two as a service, and it's just absolute nonsense. So basically you can pass out like 1 million condoms and say you performed 1 million services. That's just stupid, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't want to I don't have specific papers to back this up, but I watched this lady. She was on, she was getting interviewed by, I can't remember who specifically, but she basically used to work at Planned Parenthood, and this is slightly on the conspiracy side, but she said that they would purposely give out contraceptive that has a higher failure rate. So
that's not conspiracy at all. That's actually backed up by facts.
So yeah, they would give out, instead of like the shot, because they have shots now that can last for like 3 months. So I mean, it's basically harder to mess that up opposed to giving out birth control pills.
Exactly,
So,
and the main people who are affected by this are the lower income, and that's why Planned Parenthood, they come across as these people who are giving the lower income minorities a service when they're actually preying on them. They're following in the ways of Margaret Sanger and making sure that lower income undesirables are getting out of the way. They're killing their babies. They're doing all types of things. And then Planned Parenthood is not a service to anyone. Planned Parenthood or any other abortion clinic.
right, yeah, I agree.
No, it wasn't a conspiracy at all. I mean, at the end of the day, they are a business. Tobacco companies, by law, have to put that it'll kill you, it'll hurt your baby, it'll, do all these things to you. But at the end of the day, they're a business. They're going to do more advertising for you to smoke it than they are for you not to smoke it.
Right, and like I think a quote that first Hogtie said was he's as anti-abortion as anyone. So if that's the case, why wouldn't you attack this from all angles?
Oh, he's pro-life?
Make sure no, he's not. Exactly, yeah. So why wouldn't you attack this at all angles? Why not make contraceptive available to all, give good sex education, and at the same time figure out ways to make abortions illegal, for the abortions for social reasons illegal. Take it from both, because basically he's arguing that we need better education, and kind of the other side argues that we need to do abstinence. Let's just do both. Let's say no more abortions, and we're also going to show people how to use contraceptive correctly, all these things. And I think ultimately that would obviously curtail a lot of the problems we have. So that seems to be the, quote, the most anti-abortion position to me.
Well, actually, I don't know if you ever heard of the abolitionist position. That's a position as well, because you have, as long as they're treating abortion as, something that's taboo, then people are going to look at it like that. They're not treating abortion as murdering another human being. So as long as it's not being treated as murdering another human being, it's easily regulated. Okay, you can kill this human being in the summer, but you can't kill them in the winter, because it's regulated killing. You cannot do that. You have to get rid of it all across the board, and that means stop treating it like healthcare and start treating it like the murder of an innocent human being.
Right, and anytime that the right wants to pass any type of laws to illustrate the how sick it is, like for example in Texas, they were going to make any woman who wants to have an abortion, they have to go to a doctor and they have to do an ultrasound and show them that there's a heartbeat and basically walk them through exactly what's taking place.
Exactly.
Because basically the left and Planned Parenthood has just made this seem like it's some tumor inside of them, and
Exactly.
the right was basically trying to illustrate that it's a human in there. And
Yep.
what does the left and Planned Parenthood do? They say, oh, you're just trying to make these women feel terrible about themselves, all these things.
Exactly.
So I think Tommy was right on with saying that the left puts up with this. Oh, we're anti-abortion too, but whenever you actually look at the facts, they're not.
No, they're not. And that's why they don't want women to see inside and see exactly, oh my goodness, this baby has this baby has that. It's not about pro-choice because they want to regulate the choice that women have.
Good point. Yeah, isn't that odd and ironic that they don't want to show those color photos or those color videos of those developing babies for that very reason. That tells you all you really need to know.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So I think everybody else in here is all in agreement.
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go get my baby.
I wanted to ask Hogtie before he left. I mean, he was going on and on about how the lost my train of thought. The abstinence only was a failure or doesn't work. But I wanted to. I was reading a second ago this one link, which I'll put over here.
That's why I think it's important for us to define first what abstinence only means. I think Tika explained that well, and there's a very important distinction that needs to be made.
Yes.
As far as to like saying abstinence this, I'm not talking about sex at all, or not giving any information to your children about anything. Of course, if you're not giving your children information about certain things, they're not going to know what to do, and that applies to more than
and
just
that's
abstinence.
the only one they're talking about. That's the problem. The only only education that the pro-aborts are attacking is the one where the parents keep their children shielded from the world. That is the only one they've done the study on. They've not done a study on the abstinence-only education where the children know about their bodies, they know about sex, and they know about the world. They have not done that. So pro-aborts always attack the religious side of abstinence-only education, and not the side where you have parents who are a little bit more open and teach their children about their bodies and about sex. They haven't done a study on that.
I feel like it's a little bit of a straw man too. I mean, I grew up in a small town in the middle of the Midwest, Bible Belt, and in my health class they talked about sex, why people get pregnant, and the best ways to not get pregnant if you involve yourself in sex. And they also said obviously the best way to not get pregnant or get STD would be not to have sex at all. And they basically give you all the options, but they just have this view where like this preacher like comes in and pushes over the health teacher and says, no sex for anyone, and we're not going to tell you about birth control or condoms. So then I don't know. I just don't really see that being the case in 2015.
No, it's not that. But I mean, at the same time, my parents were like we're not going to. Okay, my parents would tell me about sex and condoms and all that other stuff, but they weren't like, okay, if you're going to do it, put on a condom. They educated me, but they didn't tell me just if you were going to do it, put on a condom. They did not tell me that. All right, and I've been a virgin ever since, and I think that sort of education does work. I know several different families who they have children with purity rings who were stayed faithful until they were married. And, God, yeah. I mean, this is not unusual to find. I mean, in the media will make you believe that it's unusual to find these sorts of people, but they're really not.
Exactly. And I mean, more of the purity ceremonies as well.
And isn't just the technological age just ruling this out anyways? I mean, even if you want to shield your kids from this and not let them hear about it, I mean, the internet and how sexual all TV shows are, and I mean everything. I mean, I feel like you just figure this out no matter what. If you wear a condom, chances of getting pregnant are less. I mean, I could see this argument back in like the 50s or something, or the 70s, but not so much anymore.
What's your name?
John.
Yeah, John. Well, that's how I was saying there's two different ways. You do have parents who are very strict, and they limit the TV that the children watch. They limit and they watch everything that they do. They don't have cell phones. They don't have things that other kids have, so they're really sheltered. Like my kids are homeschooled, so they don't go out there and do what everybody else do. But I don't shield them from the freaking world, because then they'll go outside like somebody out of the Matrix and like, oh my goodness, there's the sun. No, we don't want to do that to our kids.
Exactly.
Right. But like, I think the people who are shielded to that degree would make up such a tiny percent of the population that it'd be almost negligible.
It is.
We would probably be talking about like Amish people or something.
Yeah.
Like, not,
Yeah.
But
I bet
I don't know if you guys know who the you guys probably know who the Duggars are. They belong to a type of Christian group who believe
I know about them. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them, they homeschool their children, but they keep their children very shielded from the outside world. They keep their children very shielded. You don't see them doing a lot of things that a lot of other kids do. But then you have, they practice they practice abstinence in their culture. In the Amish culture, they practice abstinence. So they usually get married before they have sex. So I'm trying to figure out why in these cultures that are so religiously focused, it works for them, but it doesn't work for the outside world.
Yeah, and I think this also comes back to your point about linking abstinence only with abortion rates, because, I mean, if you were to look at that tiny percent we were talking about and compare that to how many abortions they have, I'm sure it would be almost non-existent. So.
Yep, exactly.
And what were you gonna make a point, Tommy? What you about to say?
Oh, I was just, talking about hog tie, and he was talking about the inability to be effective, the abstinence only. But I was just doing a little search on Google, and it seems like no matter where I look, the STD rates are skyrocketing. Just one thing I put over here on the side, it says recent research has shown that more than half of all people will have an STD or STI at some point in their lives. So you've got half the population that's got an STD or will, and I was just going to ask him if he would consider that a success, because we're obviously not in a era of abstinence only. So, is this particular thing, would he consider that a success if half of all people had an STD?
Yeah, I mean, even something like HPV, 80% of sexually active people will come across with HPV.
Exactly.
And it's condoms don't do any good either, because it can reside in on your actual skin. So,
like, HPV is one of those things that we wish we would have known about was that bad before, and had a vaccine a lot sooner. But it was kind of too late.
Yeah, and we've actually learned a lot when it comes to cervical cancer and stuff with HPV. Yep. It used to kill a lot of women, but now it's basically benign.
Yep. So, I mean, it's really not necessary to get the vaccination if you don't want to have your, daughters get the vaccination. But, I mean, it depends. Depends on the mom. But it is.
I think there is. I don't see the pro live people winning the argument anytime soon. But I think one thing that is going to help us out a lot as far as just abortions going down is I hear they're on the edge of coming up with male contraceptive in a shot form. And I think if we can have contraceptive on both sides of the aisle, I think that's going to ultimately drive down a lot of the pregnancies, because I think men, well, this might not be the case, but I think men are pretty terrified of getting a girl pregnant, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. So I feel like guys would line up, by the hundreds to get these birth control shots. So I think that's gonna be a help.
But let me ask you a question, John. When's the last time you've been in the inner city to see how inner city people think or mingle or what have you, like the lower income inner city people? Because I want to speak realistic, because this is where I live. And they really, a lot of times when you have these young boys who hormones, they're going all over the place, the last thing they're thinking about is putting on a condom. The last thing they're thinking about is, getting any type of contraception of that sort. And they're not being educated on it either. They're not about educating them.
Yeah, but all that stuff, okay, for condoms take away sensation and they're a pain. Women's birth control, you have to take it every single day. It's a pain. So I'm saying if you could educate inner city people that they just simply have to go to Planned Parenthood once every 3 months and get a shot in their arm, I feel like that's more compelling than the latter.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
But
I hate
I mean,
to.
I don't know. It's not really my realm.
This is a very good conversation, but something's came up and I really got to end it. I really hate to end it so abruptly. I had a blast in this conversation, but I got to stop it. But thank you all so much for coming in. John, Tika, always a pleasure. To Brother Tommy and AJF, thank y'all so much for coming by.
All right. See you later, dude.
Take
All
care.
right.
We'll see you, Antonio.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.